Okay, we're recording.
Fry.
I don't know, that,
Oh,
yeah. I'm just saying protein shakes in general.
Too damn hungry, 2 hours.
I know, sometimes it's like, yeah.
Well, then you're supposed to have another one.
But you just that's it, because sometimes, what was it, oh, my dad's gonna want to, at the, you know, like the nutrition drinks.
Right.
And it's like,
sure,
some of
yeah.
them, it's like, some of them are just a lot of sugar. I mean, they give them the protein
Yeah, you
and
have to be
vitamins,
careful.
but it's like,
Absolutely.
holy smokes, we might need a happy medium here for somebody who's, kind of, you know, some of them you want them to have the sugar
Right,
and weight or
yeah,
whatever, but
right.
it's kind of like, wow. We do not want them to definitely die of sugar rather than malnutrition.
We do a boost glucose control one because my husband has diabetes, so he'll do that and it has a lot less sugar in it. So.
Yeah, you
So
know,
it's
but it
got all the
was
good
just,
stuff, but it specifically says glucose control right on it.
and then some of them too, if they're the artificial sweeteners, they just, I don't like artificial sweeteners, which again, I think.
You
you're
don't
gonna
want
get
that,
used
no,
to
you
it.
want all natural stuff.
Yeah, but in turn, it's kind of like if you were diabetic.
Yeah, that's all,
And-
because my husband is, he
Yeah.
wears a pump, so it's, you
Oh,
know.
for diabetic?
Yeah, he's type 1, he got it as a teen.
Yeah.
But it's like a sensor,
That's fun.
it's
You
like a
the
semi-automatic,
artificial?
you
Oh,
know,
I
the
see.
sensor, and
Can't
then he's
stand
got
it
the
either. I
pump.
think you
Oh,
can
really?
So
use
the
it.
read, the sensor reads
And
his
so
blood
I
sugar,
just
but I
find-
mean, he still has to
I have
prick
lots
himself,
of,
you know.
Oh, yeah.
But he says,
So they work out with it, has these little sensors in her
I need
arm.
it.
You know what?
That,
Yeah.
and she actually takes her phone, even though we only work out for 30 minutes, she takes it
You know,
around with
it's
her because
okay,
it
so at
somehow
some point
our
our
bodies
bodies
are
are
supposed
supposed
to.
to-
yeah.
Yeah, but
sugar
it's
goes
Yeah.
supposed to be
low.
HbA1c is supposed
So
to
she
be.
doesn't, I don't know, I've never talked to her about it,
4
but.
years ago.
well, Paul says that he
I mean, it
can
was
probably
you have to treat.
feel it
You have
just
to
as
pay
well
attention.
as.
But that's a
he can.
lot of it.
I would imagine when you have it that
No,
long,
you won't want to be
second
on the
picture.
board either.
But his
you know,
L1C,
yeah, it had nothing.
Whatever it is, blood platelets, you know, sugars,
Yeah.
poison. He was 5.5, that's the normal.
That's good, yeah.
Sometimes too, you look
Yeah.
at something.
It's really good.
I really love that. And then there's days where, oh, I
So-
can take or leave it. Oh,
Good.
He says it- he said it's the alternative.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to do the old fish.
So you can have.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Supervisor.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I guess I better find out where I'm at. Just this document?
Yeah, I think so, because you don't have any.
We don't have any
I
requests,
saw
so,
it too,
okay.
and
I will find it now.
1 hour, I see.
Yeah. 10 minutes is probably too much, but.
Oh,
I
I
think
see.
it's just gonna entertain you guys with some fresh stuff.
Oh,
Say,
okay.
Michelle, how are you feeling your day?
Might be a good time to ask for a raise.
She's such a trash.
Anybody needs one, you do.
Just do my job.
We're up with supervisor. I just have a couple of questions, and I don't want to seem sensitive or fussy, but I just noticed that the supervisor gets 10 minutes, and the other 2 full-time elected clerk and treasurer get 20. And then on, they both have, on the big sheets here, they both have stuff on here, and the supervisor's office doesn't have anything, so am I reaching beyond my,
Shelley said she could fill an hour.
what's that?
She said she could fill an hour.
Yeah, now I'm talking to people on the phone, well, garbage back up there. She could fill a whole day.
Actually.
No,
And then some.
That was my intro, so I burned up my 2 minutes. Rochelle, you wanna take off from here?
Sure, obviously on this page, supervisor and assessing are combined, it's gonna be page 6. Yeah, so I can't speak to anything on the assessing portion of it. Basically, for the supervisor portion, it's just gonna be the salary, you know, wages, health insurance, life insurance, all that kind of stuff, and, you know, office supplies. We don't really do much with membership and dues, more conferences and training. If Gary goes to any of that, he pays, and then I try to just go with other departments that are already going. So sometimes, like for example, we have a FOIA class, and the police department will go as a group. I can go with them for the same cost, so we try to do it that way. So there's really not much training or conferences that we need to attend that we put in here, so. Yeah, that's it really. There's not a whole lot to the supervisor's budget. Anybody have any questions or
But
suggestions?
technically, this whole thing is the supervisor's budget.
Oh, correct, I mean,
Supervisor's
these line
departmental
items.
budget. I need to be more specific.
So this is assessing included, correct?
Correct, and so
Well,
there's
that's why
gonna
there's no
be,
breakdown of supervisors
no,
and assessing.
And so are we buying a vehicle, it looks
We're
like?
assessing.
that would be assessing, yeah. we
Well, it's
don't-
Gary
When
needs to retire.
assessing the next round.
Maybe
So
Shelley needs to
basically
retire.
they've
She's
had
been
no
working hard.
requests.
No,
I got a
good.
Chevy.
Shelley will grant all of your
Trash
non-requests, how's that?
Sometimes I do borrow the assessing department's vehicle,
Right.
but we'll just use that for, you know, a day, for Earth Day or whatever, you know, if we need a township vehicle, but that's, I mean, that's rare, once a year possibly. So, and that's typically on a weekend when they're not using them anyways, so.
Yeah, I wanted a township vehicle and a vehicle statement, but they got turned down, so.
You turned yourself down.
Yeah, you turned yourself off.
We did have one of them before, but it's not the supervisor. We did have an employee, they got a statement and had a vehicle, so. The things you find out after the fact.
But, you know, when Paula comes in, she'll be able to tell you some of these other, mostly where the dollar changes are, because those are gonna be for that department. We haven't made any requests this year. You know, we don't need any special equipment or anything like that, so if for us, it's just gonna be the standard stuff.
And that's why we gave you 10 minutes.
I know, I mean,
Still
it
probably
could be
have
5,
six
but it just
left.
I
looks.
think we gave
goofy.
him 5 too many minutes.
So I stood on four to burn up, having been Mike for 2 minutes of whimpering at the beginning, and 6 minutes over.
That's it, honestly, there's really nothing else to,
So we've done with trash for the last
we
4
can if
minutes.
you'd like to, so. I did
We're
send the
tight, we're
first
tight with
round.
HR for the smallest department in the township, so. yeah.
Did you have any people
I
sign
know,
up
the
last
most
night?
important one is the smallest.
Art and I were watching people walk out that had complained.
I know.
And we were like,
And they didn't realize they were right there too. Sign them up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had 2 people give names, phone numbers, addresses, and,
Okay.
that was it, you know, so, but, you know.
Well, when you made that announcement, they clapped.
I was just saying, you got a
Yeah.
good clap, Shelley.
But only
Yeah.
2 people signed up.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if it's, my guess would be because those are the people that are saying they don't have money right now, so, you know, that 165 that they weren't able to make up, so what's the point in having someone call, but. So I did turn over the first round of, names and phone numbers to JFL this morning, I emailed them, and I'll give another round this afternoon. We're just taking, as people call and they can't get a hold of them and they're not, you know, either willing or able to go online, I'll take their stuff, so.
Well, the lady made a great suggestion last night, you know, she told the seniors to put the garbage in her can. You know, I talked to her afterwards, I said, you know, get a couple of neighbors, go with 3, 4 people, you know.
There's people who
Just
call
so
say
much.
they're gonna do that, yeah, help out and,
Oh yeah, my neighbors are doing it too, that's,
yeah.
I didn't wanna publicly steer people into doing that, but
Sure.
that lady brought that up, I thought.
Because you have to permission to do that, or else, otherwise you're dumping,
Well, I don't
yeah.
wanna start off really
Yeah,
bad
exactly.
relationship.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
people,
put
so.
my stuff on the neighbors.
Well, they're, you know, you have plenty of customers, GFL will, so I don't think they would mind.
Well, years
Try to
ago,
be
Well, no,
well.
I'm just
For sure,
talking
it's
about
a-
the
I
people
guess
that
short-term.
are having hardship with
Yes.
finances, you know.
No,
And one
that's
lady, she
hard.
left really, really mad, and I wanted to say something after the board meeting, you know, why don't you talk to your neighbor or two,
Yeah,
and maybe just go in together and cut the cost.
yeah.
Just till March or April, and then, you know, then it'll come in, you know,
That's
the
not
whole
it's
thing.
not a bad idea, so.
yeah, I know my mom lived alone and the gal across the street lived alone, so she would
Okay.
come over, because my mom couldn't get around me, she'd come over and wheel my mom's garbage out and put hers with it, and then this is still when Smith's had it, Smith's found out about it, they canceled the service, so.
So you.
Well, yeah, you can't
Yeah.
officially.
You can't broadcast
do
it.
that.
You know, the one lady talking about moving a 95-gallon garbage can 1/2 mile down her driveway,
Right.
where's she living in?
I don't know.
Well, I had one woman send a real nasty email this morning, and her address is in Birmingham, Michigan, so I had a tough, did you see that one?
No, maybe she has a rental or something here.
I don't know, but I just, her address is Birmingham, Michigan, and I thought, what, the township lines have.
Probably running.
I didn't know what that one
running a
lady's
house out.
point was, though, talking about bringing a garbage can 1/2 mile down the driveway. She's been doing it for Advance, so what's the difference with GFL?
I'm guessing
What's
that this
your
advance
complaint?
will allow you just to put a bag
Well, you
on.
don't have to have a 95-gallon, you can have a 64-gallon
You
too.
could have the smaller one, yeah.
I've heard 64
Because
and
wheels,
96,
so
I've heard 65 and
usually
95, I've heard
easier.
different sizes.
Well, they're real close. My wife told me last night, 64.
Medium and
Well, I
large.
mean, if we
and then you get 95, I think.
Right.
I'm responsible for the
Yeah.
treasurer. You know, I have to haul it
You know,
all,
I
but
also
can
heard
handle it.
Advance, if they were going to stay here, Advance, they were also going to be increasing their prices.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I,
So when
They
it's all
started
said,
to do it.
yeah, they had already started to do that. So when it's all said and done, there's really not much difference in the cost. The problem is, I think for some people, is they are asking them to prepay it upfront.
Right.
Plus, they just pay advance, that's the problem.
Who's
Many
holding
people
on to
just
that
paid
money?
advance, so advance has
Right,
their
exactly.
funds that they're not going through on
Right.
providing service.
Right.
So,
I think GFL could have maybe bend a little bit, give a senior discount, 10% or
Considering-
what's
something.
better and
We're bringing
different,
them
who's
to
the,
the township.
the victim here and who's
One
the.
down,
Well,
yeah.
so rather than 165, if you're a senior, it's 160.
Yeah, I think they could have gave a little bit more
But I,
than that,
like I
with
said,
good
I
faith, but.
know some current customers they have that are paying $33 a month, so.
I know what you're
If
saying,
you
yeah.
start
Yeah,
getting
that's
the
the
new
break,
ones that come
right.
out of break, then you know what I'm saying, you're
Yeah, I
creating,
understand.
creating two different scenarios.
It does speak to how good our contract is, because we were able to negotiate those things into it with the discounts and,
Right.
you know, the veterans discount, which they don't currently give, and how great the rate is, so, I
Well,
mean, it
contracts
does.
are, I think they're.
Yeah, I mean, I think people can
Good,
see that
outstanding
that is,
contract.
it's a
We
great
do have a
contract.
good contract, yes.
Yeah,
It's just a shock to 11,000 people
It
right
is,
now
I
in
know.
advance. They
absolutely.
just get a 2-week notice or whatever it was and.
Did you call? Did you, your wife call?
Yeah, Mary called, we're already set up for
Yeah.
next Friday.
Yeah, I'm set up for next Thursday.
Not this Friday, but the following Friday.
Right, 7th.
They're picking up today would be our last day from advance. And I hope they take that little raggedy recyclable box out of, take it with them, because if not, it's going in the trash next
The little red
Friday.
one? I
Yeah,
don't
mine's
think
all
they're picking
broken up
those
and I'm
up.
throwing it and everything.
Because you pay for those when you first get one, so I don't think they're picking them up, we didn't even put ours out,
I put it out hoping they take it.
yeah. Maybe they would.
Paul is here.
Okay,
Okay, well, thank you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
It was enjoyable.
Yes, you
thank you, keep up the good work.
We
We'll
want you to
see-
do this
we'll
by
see you next
talking about
year, yeah.
trash.
Have a little more request, please.
All right, I will, thank you.
See what you.
Did you see who's coming? Yeah.
Uh-oh.
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 Well, at least you were smiling.
Uh-oh.
Bye, guys.
You sit on there if you want. You sit there if you want, I'll move my stuff over.
Just listening.
Just a disclaimer. Okay.
When you guys showed up, we were trash talking, so.
Here.
I was just-
How about you guys?
You're fine, I'm just
There you
listening.
go.
You have an extra, I think, one?
Oh, I don't have any extra.
Okay.
Um, that one for myself, we got them all?
Okay, assessing, you don't have to switch the page at all, it's number 6, page 6.
I basically just gave you, everything I gave last time. I updated a few things and then gave some additional, listings, job listings for township positions and what they're currently offering as far as wages.
Paul, if you have one of these, go to the colorized page. It's the first one.
This one?
Yeah, so assessing's at the top there.
Mhm.
Just to bring everybody up to speed with where the recommendations are at this point. A lot of them related to people, we have beautiful and stuff. Second part-time deputy assessor, personal property auditor. At this point, that's a no. Just based on basically abstaining where the general fund is right now. Additional vehicle, that's a yes, and that's on the vehicle list. there, and I think we were looking at a similar one, I think it was the terrain. Yeah, there's the terrain that's listed out. We got here, okay, seasonal, college students, at this point, that's a no. The Blue Star subscription, renewal, what is it called?
CoStar.
I'm sorry, Blue Star, I'm
I
thinking
think
of.
that's a highway.
It's a Blue Star Guide.
CoStar, yeah, that's a yes. Boots, basically outfitting the assessing department
Yeah.
with clothing and stuff that would be have a crisper and more uniform look out in the community, that's a yes. For the assessors, technician, assessor 4 salary increase, it's a partial, so that has gone up. Trying to be cognizant of that and information that's been brought forward. And, yeah, so the request was basically 26,000, approved at 17. So that's a partial, and, that's just where it is at this point. There can be more discussion, of course. That's
Now, the
just-
17 is, because I think it was 18 to give them what I wanted per hour, I believe it was 18. Yeah, it was 18,720.
Mhm.
So how much is that per, does that come out to per person as far as like dollar per hour?
We would have to probably go back, because I think we had that your request was 26,869. And therefore, there are either additional positions,
Yeah, that might have been, was that, might have been some of the other.
there's some
Yeah,
additional.
we'd have to go back and kind of deep dive, this is kind of.
Because yours said, right here, it was the increase in employment wages is 24,960.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so now you're
Included
saying
all
that,
positions, yeah, across the board.
so then in turn,
So what was?
so
the-
your
the
number
three?
wasn't 18.
Right, right,
So-
but if I went back to just the 3 of them, it would have been 18.
What was that?
Okay, so then in turn, this discussion was including other positions.
Okay.
within.
Okay.
What was the number for the 3 level 2s? 18?
Oh, 18, it's in the new packet.
And again, some of it was in keeping with,
18,720 for just the 3 positions.
step and grade, like, position levels.
Mhm.
You know, and to keep it in with the, wage scales of Teamsters,
Okay, so,
because there's
because
certain.
I just want to make clear that, our Michigan certified assessing officers were in the same level as a departmental aide. I mean, that's the wage scale they were in, then they should be definitely higher than the departmental aide. So,
But in
that's why
turn,
we're-
departmental aides have different responsibilities than your assessors.
Right, they do.
So,
But I think with their technical skills that they need should be above a departmental aide.
That's a question
but
for the
that's a
board.
question for, the continuity of the whole Teamsters contract, as to where they were placed within.
So
So
is there,
those things.
is the union not willing to go up to $3 an hour? Is that the issue?
I think it's a combination of the township's ability to pay for increases that are being requested across the board, whether it be for assessing or other departments. And then in turn, in keeping with the fact that certain positions are here and so forth, I think they were just placed into a category that was probably, I would have to go back and look at if you look at the Teamsters, there's usually bands. So it's like maybe they went up a full band, so then they would be above a department aide.
Okay.
So then
I
in
think
turn,
that they should be above a departmental
but again, it depends on the premise of the department.
aide. Mm-hmm. So, certified individuals should be paid for their earnings. What department they're in.
Okay, of the 3 you have highlighted, which one are they right now? Michigan certified
Oh.
assessing officer.
That's
middle
what they
one?
all are right now.
That's what they are right now. Their pay is at 24.92?
Mm-hmm,
All 3, okay.
mm-hmm.
All 3 of them right now,
Yes.
24.92?
Well, no, Tyler's not quite up to that.
Come on, Taylor, catch up with you.
Try.
But, the two are, and we have given you jobs that are just posted recently, even from White Lake Township, which is half the size, where their starting pay is at 26 for the same position.
And that's where it kind of becomes difficult, because most job postings within the township are about 15 or 20% less than some of the competitive market. And so that is one of the struggles that the whole township, not just one department, deals with, whether it be, accounting people, departmental aides, our clerical staff is probably decently compensated, but there's a whole lot of other positions that are within the Teamsters contract.
Well, we're talking certified people. We're talking somebody that only has high school education coming in here, and some people that have years of classes and certifications, so.
You make a bill.
Different types of,
Very valid.
criteria that are needed for that position, because we're governed by the state of Michigan. We're not, governed by a local municipality. Oh, yeah, I don't have a recent one. I think we're given one.
These
Yeah,
are
those
just,
are just requested by.
what are the, oh, these are just what I look here.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
those are
same-
recent, yeah,
They're
same
doing the same
position.
job here as in there in Waterford.
Mhm. Yeah, smaller communities.
Okay.
So, is this, the appraiser 1, 2, or 3?
Mhm, yeah, same thing. yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And Sierra for that one, that one's actually up north. They only have a population of 13,000, Beaver Township.
So MCAO is,
Michigan Certified Assessing Officer.
okay,
So you requested 26,869, correct?
24 something, I think was in my original. That was including chief assessor as well,
Okay. And then,
the same amount, increase per dollar.
so we
Originally.
tentatively approved 17,734, and you're saying that at the minimum, you are requesting 18,720?
At least for the three lower assessors, yeah.
Okay.
And that's $3 across the board.
That's $3 across the
Take them to 27.92.
board. Mhm.
so there's not much difference, really. And it was 18,000 what, did you say? It's in there?
720? 18,720.
Is that salary? It's just salary?
Yeah, just salary.
It's just-
Fight does, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
Okay. 18,720.
So you've got certified assessing technicians at 21, so they would have been below a department aide. And then your other ones, so then they're stepping up above the department aide level when they're at 24.92. Plus they have the ability to get additional certifications, and that would allow those same people to move to a higher wage.
Mhm. Right.
It kind of works like a career ladder. in a sense.
Right, right. The one for the two is not in the career ladder, the 2 to the 3 is. So automatically from the 2 to the 3. But not from the 1 to the 2.
Okay.
Are those part of the goals of the department is to become threes?
Oh, I encourage it for them to become 3s. I only have the part-time deputies, my only 3. And I need somebody that can assist a little more with a lot of the analysis and things like that. I don't have anybody to help with those kinds of things, except for the part-time person, which I don't have enough of a person here. 1 to 2 days a week, it's not quite enough for that.
And just out of curiosity, is she interested in another day a week or not, or is she just, she tuned?
She has 2 in Southfield and then 2 here, so, and then sometimes, you know, it's only 1 here depending on her schedule.
Okay.
So once I go out, you know, to get somebody, try and find somebody else that can do more days a week. But then I'm only budgeted for 2 anyway.
Do you know, if White Lake, how many people they have there working?
The assessor there, I believe, is a level 3, and then I know they had 2 appraisers at one point. I don't know what their clerical staff is.
They can't be far away from Neiman Fork, can they? I mean, White Lake is, they get the other.
They have like half the parcels we do, so.
Do they? Okay.
Mhm.
It's Independence is a 4 now, right?
No.
They're still
not
a 3?
yet. They're still
Okay, I
3.
thought they went to a 4,
Yeah.
okay.
The one is working on her 4, just in case,
Yeah,
but, yeah, she's only
there's
3.
just a lot of development going on in both of those communities, and they're growing at
Mhm.
fast rates. I'm just thinking, they're
Yeah.
gonna be forest before they know it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their, you know, assessed value is there in White Lake.
Right.
You know, Independence is getting close, that's why they're, you know, having their 3 get her 4.
And the proposal for the chief assessor was the same $3 an hour?
Originally, but then after looking at I changed it in here, looking at, if you just went all the way to the end as far as your steps, then you'd be, you know, pretty competitive. You go all the way up to step 9, I think I went through that last time.
Okay.
Instead of stopping at the midpoint, if you were to continue on to the step 9, if you had that flexibility of going to step 9, then you would be competitive.
What are you currently?
I think I'm step 3,
With the grade 9.
9.
993. Okay.
And that's something we can probably touch base with Bonnie on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm due for the step 4 soon. Because I have to start all
Oh, the
over
time
again.
intervals.
I have to start all over with going from the bottom up.
You end up at a 9.5, correct? That's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what the 19 numbers.
because I had already gotten to step 5 in the 6, and then had to start over.
So you're at a grade 9, step 3?
Yeah.
And what are you asking for, Paula?
Just, you know, flexibility to take it all the way, you know, to be able to progress up to the step 9,
Okay,
you know, over time.
so like is it 4 would be 87,540?
She's into that,
Oh.
now, she's going to a 5.
I'll eventually go to a 5,
She's going to
Okay.
a 5.
not till next year.
So that's 94, 93. So are you a step 4 this year?
I should be soon,
Okay.
There's a chart.
Okay.
yeah. So I won't reach the 5 till I've been here over 4 years.
Do you know when you go to a 9-4, Paul?
It's gotta be sometime in November, I think.
So mid-year next year, you'll be the 9-5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, the courts have been given money to bring people up to industry standards a couple years ago, so we're not asking for a lot to bring us up.
Do they carry any degrees that go with their certifications or just their certifications?
Depending on the person, or, you know, depending on.
But it's not a job requirement that they have, like,
Once you
like
get to the higher levels, it is.
So is that a technician level,
I think it's the deputy level is,
So within Teamsters is the certified assessing technician, then there's a certified assessing officer, and then there's the advanced certified assessing officer.
I haven't seen the job description for the advance, so I'm not sure what's required of that one.
So for the other two positions,
I
it's
think they
just,
prefer, I can't remember if it preferred a degree, but took years of experience with it, something like that is, I think how it's worded.
and then, so for your technician and your officer, and then moving to the third level, there's industry
Yeah, I haven't
specific
seen-
things.
I haven't seen, obviously, there's standards through the international that would like to see a degree along with it, but, depending on what the township's requirements are.
But again, going back just to like the technician, the officer, and the advanced officer for the certifications within the state of Michigan.
No, they don't
There's-
require you, to get the certification, they don't require you to have a
No,
degree.
I'm just saying, putting aside, you have certifications that they need to be a technician, correct?
Yes,
And then there's certifications specific to the state, not for a degree, for the assessing officer. And then there's additional certifications that they need to become an advanced assessing
oh, yeah,
officer.
oh, yeah.
So that is the progression, so we're looking for, and then again, a separate, might be a degree to the third level.
Yeah, there's
That would be
intense, yeah, there's intense classes and tests that are required for each level. Tyler just finished, you know, that courses, what was it, 6 months of,
All three of them
Online
are
coursework
levels
and-
twos currently then, or level,
they're all twos.
certified assessing
Mhm,
officers.
mhm.
Mhm.
Correct,
And then they can get additional certifications to make it the next level also.
correct. It's an intense program to get to that next level.
What's the hourly rate between the two levels? What's the difference?
For a technician, the hourly rate, I think that's based on
Are
the,
you just looking at the Teamsters?
yeah, because that's what all three positions are in.
Okay.
Those are all three right there.
21,
Okay.
27, 2492, and then 2803. So then I think there was kind of a mid-step chosen somewhere between the 2492 and the 2803 to place them somewhere in between. Instead of bringing it up to the wages of an advanced assessing officer.
And she's
Because
asking
they're not-
for the $3 additional to the 24.92, making it 27.92.
Correct.
So that's,
Which brings them, yeah, under
So
our
the-
current wage scale, just under the advanced assessing officer.
Right.
And so they were given part of it.
but in order to do that, it would be like about $986 more to bring it up to the 18,120 or something that she's asking for.
But in turn,
There might be
there were some
something
other,
else.
there were
She's
some
saying
other,
there's something else in there.
but there's some other positions that were in, some other positions that were initially talked about.
In the 18,720.
Yeah, when we'd done that, we'd take numbers like halfway in between them, like halfway up again. The number we came, that I had written on my chart was 284 an hour rather than 3.
Oh,
That would take you to 27.76. That was a compromise. Take you 27.76 rather than 27.92. That was the 17,734 number right there. When we had gone back and forth with the numbers.
does that go, I'm assuming you're using like one of the other pay wage scales that's in here, so like maybe the 2749 or something like that.
There's a 27.49 there for a planner one. Yeah, I didn't look at the numbers at that point. But again, like I said, and then they're,
Yeah.
of course, they're gonna bump 2% as of January 1st too. So I believe teachers, because of the contracts that were negotiated over this year.
And that's what I
Okay.
think part of the
2% across
discussion
the
was,
board.
is that they should be placed into something, a bracket
That's
that's
already- yeah,
already
that's what I-
existing,
Okay.
instead of creating something new.
Okay, so what was
And
that?
to bring them up to almost $3 would put them up to a whole level that
So with
nobody's
most- yeah.
attained that level yet, so,
So I'm guessing it's the 2749.
27.49.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a planner one.
so we were looking
So that's the person I see. There's a
What's that saying
27.49 is an engineering aid.
at Parks and Rec supervisor. And again, they're supervising, working with people.
Civil engineer tech, civil engineering tech. There's several positions that are at that, 27.49.
And I think this level below that I'm seeing that is like 2688 for like a step, the one below that.
27.49.
Are we still only talking about $1,000 though overall?
What's that? But we're matching up with the number that's already in the numbers. That's what I'm saying, we're not creating a scale.
So what,
They
we're
don't
not
wanna,
creating
they don't
a
wanna
new
create a
wage
new
scale.
wage scale is what they don't wanna do.
Because some of this is, again, once this, there's other positions that merit review as to the level of either education or
That's
responsibilities.
$2.57 an hour.
And that always has, you always have to be mindful of what already exists within the township.
So yeah, it
Because-
is only $1,000, but it opens it up to a lot of other departments now too. That have the same
Situation.
challenge.
Because the township as a whole.
But we're the ones that bring in the money. We're the ones that assess the
But I
property.
think all
bring
departments
in the
are
money.
having the issue of finding qualified people in a very competitive market.
But we're the ones that assess the property that bring the money to the township.
No, it's not
We don't
easy.
have the staff to do it. We're not gonna be able to bring in what we need to bring in, find the things. There's so many, this township's been neglected for years. There's so many
So-
We're
things.
trying
that
to bring
need-
this department of the 21st century.
And most of
there's-
the-
It's
the
been
budget
back in the
re-
1700s.
There's so many
For years,
things that
I-
haven't been looked at in years in
And I
this
understand what you're
township.
saying.
And
I
that's
agree
why
with
you're not
you.
having your money that you need,
I agree
because
with you, Paul.
it hasn't
You
been
need to
done.
bring it up to the 21st century because
But how does a pay raise alone do that?
it keeps
Because
qualified
it
people.
prevents these people from leaving, and then I have nobody. Then I have no one
And then she
to
has
do the
retrain.
job. And then I would have to, if I could find somebody, I'd have to retrain. We spent years training, you know, the person that we have, that's our lowest person, And now we could lose that person and then we gotta start all over. It's not a cycle that anybody wants to go through, cause it's not easy to learn their job.
Okay, then the next closest pay scale is 2803, that's a fixed number. So we're going from 2749, 2803 is the next one, and that's a bump of what, 52 cents?
Let's put the middle tier one at the same rate as the higher tier.
Of which, you know, they needed more additional.
No, right, I know,
you
I'm
training
looking
and
at that,
skills
but-
in which to do this, you know, and again.
Oh, I know, as I'm saying, just looking at, it picks numbers, right, tried to find something that matched up, and that was the next lowest number.
Yep,
Yeah.
down was
Was
2688, 2742, or 2803.
Right.
When was the last time this was increased?
All departments have been, getting about 2%.
2% increase per year.
Last few years.
So last year, they received a 2% increase.
And the year before, then 2%.
Yeah, during the recession, there was a period of, I don't know, like a 7 or 9 year period of, no increases, so that's part, I
This
think
is
what
what
Barb
you're
is, I
saying.
think what Barb is trying to say, I'm including assessing in the grander scheme of, yes, Waterford's wages are lower than the surrounding communities. I think that's a factual, mathematical derived answer. It affects this group dramatically, it affects other groups as well. So we're talking with the assessing department today, they're making a compelling argument or case to bring it to light, but yeah, it's an issue for Waterford. It's an issue in this department and it's an issue in many departments.
Yeah, but their department is very, very important in this township.
Who isn't, Tony?
But
Well, she's
yes,
gonna bring in a lot of income.
If I bring the
From
next
library.
department
But then in
they're
turn,
gonna be
maybe you
more
want
We
to
go
hear-
parks and rec,
maybe
But I
you want to
think-
hear the rest of the requests that are on the township.
No, I think it's
I
very
think we do
compelling.
case by
what they
case,
said.
but I think she's presented a very strong case.
She's also sitting here right now, but wait for the next department to sit in front of you. too.
But-
That's very, very true, but I,
Wait for fire.
You can't
And-
compare
You know,
Parks
I-
and Rec and Library because they're on their own dedicated buildings.
and I understand that, but
They compare it
their department is bringing in revenue, and if she loses people,
to others.
we're losing
That's a
revenue.
fact.
That's-
But they
Yeah,
all,
definitely.
but
We all agree on that.
Yeah,
But there's other departments that are facing the same
Yeah, I guess
challenges.
I don't agree with it, I
If-
think we really need to take a look at and discuss what she's wanting us to do for her employees.
well, why wouldn't we all wanna do that? It's a rhetorical question.
Well, of course we want to.
But wouldn't we wanna do it for everybody?
But, you know.
Because
okay,
back to the
maybe
first
you're
page.
missing- Maybe I'm missing the thing.
I would harken you back to the
Her
first
department
page.
bring in
that we-
the money. I mean, we really have to depend on the assessing department, bring in more, to bring revenue
Absolutely,
here.
without
If we
question.
lose good qualified people, we're losing money.
But there's other departments that have
It's a
good
truism.
qualified people
And then
that
what-
they may be losing and will have to start
So we
retraining their
can do that case by
employees.
case, but I think she's got a very good argument right now. We need to
And I
keep
think
who we
all
have.
that Barb and Derek are saying is we have to hear the rest of, she's made a very valid point.
She has.
So we listen to the rest of the budget
Yeah.
hearings, and tomorrow we have to make some
That's what makes this hard.
decisions as to how we're gonna reallocate.
Tomorrow we're not
And
gonna
and as a
consider- we
first
gotta look
pass,
at
we've
all
given
again
her,
tomorrow with other departments. She's here right now asking, we can give her an answer right now if we
Well,
really.
We can if we don't wanna wait
the
to hear the
first-
other
the
departments.
first answer was
That's true.
approximately, $2.57 an hour versus the $3 an hour that she asked for. So as a first pass, she's gotten over probably 75% of the request. And
Fair enough, I get that, I'd like to see her get.
So then in
the-
turn, it's like, do we or do we not, can maybe be part of a future
Okay.
discussion. But for her first, she's taking the people she has and taking their full wage scales up by
Yeah.
approximately
Without-
250.
Without any financial constraints or any ability to pay, I think you just say yes. And we'll shuffle. I mean, it's that easy.
But there are financial
And
constraints
let's harken back to
and
OPEB
similar,
and everything else, where it's like, ooh.
similar things going on, like, in developmental services or water and sewer. They are now facing, their lead engineer needing to be replaced, and technically, his position probably supersedes that of his superior, which would be probably both the water and sewer superintendent, the highest position, or even the township supervisor. So that's the constraints that we're looking at, is, again, our whole wage scales here. And when we're looking for these qualified people, whether it be her department, developmental services, accounting, payroll, we're facing an uphill battle because the market is very competitive, and we knew that. But that's a bigger discussion, actually, that is here, is what do we do for all departments within a limited budget?
Water, like water, you have more flexibility, you could raise water rates to give you that additional money for your staff, and those kinds of things.
But they are
Whereas-
also part of the Teamsters, so now if you suddenly take all of their wages and give them, no one will want to be a Teamster within the general fund portion, just because we can afford to pay higher wages there.
That's in with, the union's discussion, if they feel their employees
But that's
deserve
the
that
whole
raise.
budget
At
discussion,
some
which
point,
is this
at some
whole,
point, it starts to circumvent collective bargaining as well, if that were the case.
so again, at this point, I think it was what,
257 and 311.
is currently what is proposed within the budget for these positions. Keeping the training and skill levels and certifications that they have.
Technically, the 257 will go to 263, or 265, whatever the number was, right after the first year. It goes up 2%, but it's a step in the right direction anyways.
Mhm.
So they'd be at
It's just hard to-
2776
Hard to compete
And then
when somebody's offering.
with a 2%
26 to
raise.
start.
So as far as this round of discussions, that's what was in the budget.
So that would take you, like I said, take you to 2749. That'd take you to 2804. That's a penny more than what the 2803 number we were talking about, so. That's a 2019 number, which will become, like I said, 2804.
And what was the per hour that you were looking for?
$3, so that'll get it for 28.
28.
For
Yeah,
2020.
I mean, it's your next
So
rate,
it's gonna be-
that's it, takes you to 2804. And the number we were talking about was 2803, but that wasn't what the 2% built in for 2020, but I'm just saying, trying to look at it, objectively, as a compromise, and I'm saying at 2749, I'm saying,
And then for 2020, you're saying it will be 28.
2804.
Okay.
That's with your 2% added on.
Fire department, the gurney over there, she just said they were fine, so,
What happened?
I just seen the fire department with their stretcher going across there, and they came back and they just said they were fine, so it must have been somebody over here at Parks. She didn't take
Okay.
nobody out,
So
so.
then for 2020, it will
It's
be
a
the
run.
$3.
Yeah. After all that.
Yeah, I mean,
After all that.
but I just, that's why I was
But,
trying to.
but her other point is that there are communities, and it's both sides of it, it's other communities are offering more
Mm-hmm.
for not just her position, but other communities offering more for comparable positions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the challenge that also faces the township.
I just wanted to be in the middle somewhere, so that
Right.
we were, not like I'm asking for the high end, I'm asking for the middle of the road.
It's reasonable, it's just a challenge.
It's just, you know,
That's the hard-
in the end, like you said, I should have looked at the numbers in the chart, but I went halfway, I went like 75% and came up with a number, which I should have looked at the chart and come up with a number. And not all that other math wouldn't have, it wouldn't have had to do it that way, it'd been a lot easier to do it as a chart, so. But again, like I said, it's just if we take the 257 that's proposed, and then that's where we're at, so.
And for the college student, I think that's a great idea. Obviously, people prefer to be paid, but after having kids that's gone through, a lot of them are doing free internships now just to have experience on their resume. I don't know if it's worth just doing the post and see if anybody bites, because they're looking
No,
out in
they're free.
February and March for summer employment.
Okay.
So I mean, it's worth a try.
It's worth a try, but
What
I
it is.
think most of them wanna be paid.
They do wanna get paid, but a lot of them are taking these kind of jobs during the day and then like blessing tables at night, because they need this for their resume.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I'll put something out there, but
I know.
most college students I know don't wanna work for free.
No, nobody does, but sometimes you have to get it on your resume.
But anyways, those are her requests, and that is what's included in the budget of the yeses and nos. And then after all things are heard of, then
We go back.
you can discuss this one and other positions or other projects. And things can be changed.
So the number we're proposing to take this to is in the 2019 chart is 2749, which is an increase of 257, correct?
And the assumed 2% is there are contract negotiations with the Teamsters or other union bargaining units. So ballpark is 2%.
Just for a little context, sometimes it'll be, if you want to spin back to page 1 here.
Yeah.
So this is, when Barb and I always start out with the board, kind of day one. This is like our main radar screen, we call it. So we've got the all the different funds on the left-hand side. So assessment falls under the general fund.
Right.
So about 9,000 to the good when it's all said and done. Right now, that could still change, still go up and down a little bit based on what we hear today. And the board could decide to mix some things and add some things and change some things. That's, you know, pretty much a balanced budget. It's better than negative 3.5 million. That's where we started when Barb and I took over. It was negative 1.5 million after that, so that caused for some adjustments to our sleep schedule a little bit. Yeah, I mean, your case is valid as they come. It's just, it's pervasive throughout the whole.
Yeah, it's just,
Whole
we
system.
should have more revenue based upon what we're seeing that hasn't been taken care of over the years.
And
You're
that's
catching
the
up.
next part.
unfortunately
Well,
And you
we're
get-
doing all we can.
But I say you're catching up, but it's a catch-up process that has to go right across the
There's a
board.
lot of things missing off records and cleanup.
And the supervisor-
Dollarize that, bring that back if you can. If there's a way to capture some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Make it retroactive.
But that's the
Yeah, how far
problem,
back
is
do we
in
go?
the,
We go
in the
three,
down
four, three,
economic.
5
Or
years.
2 years prior.
Two.
Two
But
years.
everything has to go to the state and you have to have all your documents, it's a lot of paperwork.
I think that would be a powerful thing to bring to the board. It's not fun to advertise
I mean,
mistakes.
some I
you
do,
know,
some I
mission.
do that are huge, that are like new construction, that totally got messed
For
up,
some
I do.
reason didn't get added. I don't know.
Yeah. I definitely do go back and our taxpayers not happy, but,
Fair is fair.
yeah.
I
Just
saw
some.
that CoStar increased their price 4.5%. Is there like, did they offer like?
They didn't even give me notice that they were doing it.
Were there new features?
They have changed everything, but I don't know that it's to the good.
Okay, all right.
So
See,
they're-
we
they
have
just
tried
changed
to
things
support
around.
our department over the years with things like that,
There's
so
a point
things
when you
have
didn't have
progress has
that,
been
and that
made.
sounded ridiculous.
It's
Like,
just
she had
that
to
her
call other
department started-
communities to get that.
Yeah, I know,
So-
that's why, yeah.
I know that's a small thing, but it was a thing.
Oh, it was a good thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The terrain, speaking to the car, is that still a suitable vehicle, or is it
Yeah.
less?
Yeah,
or
that's
more?
What do you get?
And there was
Is that
a year
train?
where
Yeah.
they had all
He
the
doesn't
vehicles.
like
They're gonna-
Now they're,
Train?
If it was my,
My,
if it was my
no,
car, I
no.
wouldn't have bought it.
Oh, pickup?
The
You
mirrors
get
are
the new
too
train?
little,
Probably.
seats.
Yeah. What's Jennifer's driving, a train?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
I like the backup camera and the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth is awesome, because, it's just awesome, and the backup camera is awesome. The mirrors are just like these little things.
Yeah.
And I don't like the way the engine turns off every time you go to the red light.
oh, you
That
can't,
just-
yeah.
You can disable that.
I don't know how to
No,
do
you
it.
cannot on some of them.
That just
Really?
always, I don't know.
That's why I bought the car.
No, it's got this little thing you put in.
But
the
God
pocket.
knows
Yeah.
mother,
Trucks in the-
she has a knack
Yeah.
of
Like in a certain.
And that's what it says, it comes with a light.
Certain amount of years you quit and then you started. Well, he's got a new one.
She's gotta be with your.
Oh, but then I think they might have
alarm
switched
goes
to
off,
allow,
you pull the hand
you know what I
off.
mean, like, there's.
My son
I just think the seat is very
Just
uncomfortable.
learning to drive.
I'm not a
What
big
if
guy, and if I
your
think
car
it's
jumped?
uncomfortable, he's bigger than I am, I guess.
Oh,
You
And
like
it
it on
turns
the day
off.
too.
Huh?
That's a good
Yeah.
that's when you call. But
It's
and
got its
there's
good
a lot of
points and its
features
bad points.
that, like,
It's
there's
got a lot of
safety
pickup.
features and
It's
stuff.
pretty good on gas.
BWD though, right?
Yeah, how do you,
Huh?
That's
all
what
the
he
way.
said, he's like, so you get
Yeah,
your
yeah.
car jumped.
How is it, snow? Good?
It goes
I don't
up.
drive a whole lot in the snow.
I
Usually
don't know if they've got
January to,
that.
January to March, we don't go out in the field a whole lot,
Okay.
but, I have been out in the field. It's better than that
drive
little
just
truck he
fine.
drives. That little truck he drives is four-wheel drive, and I got stuck on a couple times in four-wheel drive.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So it's actually better than, but better, bigger tires on it.
Yeah, he's always slipping and sliding in
Mhm.
that little truck.
Is that an S10?
Yeah, it's an old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the one you're looking to replace, then, is that?
Well, we're looking to keep it so that if, like, I need to go out to
Oh.
go look at something, or if I, like, I'm doing personal property canvassing.
Okay.
So you're not talking Baja or something, actually?
No, just, it's fine for within the township to
Right.
run here and there, but I would not trust it outside the township.
You wouldn't?
Mm-mm, not that. Even Shelley's drove it, she's like, oh my God.
Oh, I know the
that's
truck
terrible."
you're talking about now, yeah.
She uses that for.
That truck's been
day
here
and stuff.
since I've been here. Well,
Oh,
it's
well,
been,
that's
it's been
it.
here a year after. I've been here 19 years.
So
and that truck's been here
2001.
eight. Yeah, so it's been here 18.
Cruise woodworking, right?
Yeah, another 5 years.
Right, right. It's old, but it would still work for,
You-
doing little things around the township.
One thing about that terrain is, a lot of times when you use the backup camera, and then the whole screen will disappear when you put it back in drive. It like turns black, and sometimes it doesn't turn on for like 5 minutes. And I had the mechanics look at it, and they said they can't, they even took it into the dealership, and the dealership can't even find out what,
Screen goes blank?
yeah, it just goes black.
What dealership comes on after when you're not in reverse, what comes up when it comes up, what's on it?
Usually the radio thing comes back up on that one, and on this one, the one at the speedometer isn't on, it's like two different screen things. But that's the one with the radio on it, and then it just turns black. So, I don't know,
It's just a
some kind of
software
electronic.
I think Donna's across the top, it says
Mine is the
sort of
same.
temperature.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has
The
temperature
direction
and
you're
radio.
going in
yeah.
and the radio station and the time, I think.
Yeah.
Which works out there, Jeff, okay, same thing.
So you can see where that one's listed at. If you guys wanna shop that around and get something else about that same, if that means any, if you care, if that means anything to you. It doesn't.
And I think they'll usually try to keep something that they
I
normally
mean,
repair.
if a Ford Escape, my wife had more visibility or something, I don't know. Up to you guys, just an idea.
is there other dealerships they work with?
Most
I
of
see
these
you
are
got Fords, I don't know.
They're governmental
Yeah,
pricing, I
it's- so
believe.
Yeah,
Isaac and those
yeah.
guys would know which deal, but yeah, generally, it has to be a domestic, they've told us that, otherwise we get bruised, so. but- No, it's up to you, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have,
around the
like, I don't
same
have a
price.
strong commitment to that, but it's up to you guys.
I actually saw the Detroit police for riding Hondas.
Oh, yeah?
They have a motorcycle crew. Why aren't you guys riding Harley?
Really right.
Hondas?
Seriously?
The
Because you
Detroit,
know how much was
Detroit
made
police
in
ride
Michigan
foreign
or
motorcycles.
in the
Home
United
in Motor
States.
Yeah.
State police got Kawasaki, so. They're
Yeah,
right,
that's state
Kawasaki.
place, but Detroit is the home of the Motor City.
Michigan is the state.
Right.
Yeah, they shall be riding American, but
Pretty
they,
big
that was
deal.
probably.
Right, I don't know. We appreciate appreciate it. Good point, you guys made.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know, I used to go to 25 veteran games here, and I went down to Joe Louis Arena, I forget what year it was, and we had foreign cards on the boards, I think, the veteran games. And that was it. Yep. Just, I'm funny that way, just.
And water and sewer.
Were they?
Yeah, well, one of the past.
They were pretty much doing that. They laid
Yeah, I shouldn't talk
exactly.
so much.
Oh, you guys riding?
Yeah. Well, part of it too is we valorized their specific position because she had
Right.
multiples in there.
This one, cross that, no,
Hurry up.
Yeah. The good, bad, and different, I think, yeah, we had talked about it, figured it out, we just need to to the specifics. And then she said she had a lesser dollar.
Start with a small pack.
Well, is it the same as this one?
And that was part of
No,
that, so
this
she's
has
saying, well.
been
I think
revised.
yes, and I said,
Oh,
yeah,
so-
so over here.
The one I just gave you would be the best one.
Okay.
What did you say?
Maybe.
Okay, thank you.
This one here,
Nope.
vacant, nobody wants to sit next to you, Karen?
Well, art was,
No, we had considered anything, I think we meant to talk about maybe precincts, that was it. Just
Yeah.
one beyond, we talked to somebody else, I talked about somebody else. We read them off like for your whichever.
Yeah, and that's where we probably should have solidified it, because it wasn't one position.
You like one of those? Certainly. You brought yours, didn't you, Joe?
Yep. Here.
Probably fine. Solidify what is intended for her.
I think I got everybody.
Okay.
So that it becomes.
Thank you. Is this my seat? Is this the hot seat?
This is a dual one here, this is quite, yeah.
But in turn, we
Right, yeah. As a compromise.
Out there.
Yeah, we got F and O coming up next.
Yeah.
yes, I
Might as well distribute those for,
Yeah. I got
you got one. I'll put this one up here.
yeah, it's the second one.
This is F and O. Not near so big.
How you doing, Joe?
Good, how about you, Gary?
Good.
So we start.
You heard anything from the county back yet?
So I have not.
Okay.
I believe so.
With Johnny here in the next day or so if I get a chance.
I don't think he's gonna make it next year, but it'd be nice if we get something to read.
Right, we at least say, hey, we're looking at it, we're planning on something. Preston, do you want these out too, or do you
And
want
then,
to put them
and
out?
then there's incentive to go.
Yeah, we might as well
Run down to the office.
move those around. you know.
And then she did, this was stuff that she handed out.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm all set.
You're all set,
yours?
yep.
I think she was just trying to say.
Trying to get a pile.
We're under the market, and then, free.
Well, Derek said, make sure you bring all your handouts, so.
You got them.
I'm aware, I got them.
Probably from the first meeting. Weren't you in that?
Yeah.
That's where we're down from.
Yeah.
And I didn't print that one because it was more easy. And I was, and I didn't, yeah, and I didn't have that. If there was no level 4 supervisor, do they have to do more? Are they responsible for doing more or not? Because we're going to, have to go out in the field.
One more.
I think that's when
I
they
know,
are
you
taking.
know, and
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know, the whole thing, we did not have to double check that, we didn't even 257
She's caught her shift, she's like.
because she had several requests.
Lots to go over.
But I think that's what I was
More
saying.
goodies?
You know, are they,
So, for some reason,
And you have
it's lower than yours.
Yeah, I mean, there are people
But I
who
went
experience
over
more than.
all my numbers now.
They
for
just
the
want to
ones
have
in
to
the
seal the
unit.
deal, or if they just.
But with the bond.
Yeah, water,
Yeah.
sewer first, or ethanol?
Unfortunately,
Probably water and sewer
the
first.
assessors are very rich.
We'll put everybody to sleep,
Also,
and, you know, they won't be aware of what we have to know this.
So I can't dispute
Yeah.
what she's saying, and that's the
Back door.
problem, is some of them aren't, but, you know, but I think unfortunately she's still not being people, the way she wants to keep them.
What page is that, Jack?
Water and sewer's gonna start at 60. And if we could go back to the color, Russ and Joe and these guys haven't seen this yet. So we'll show them this real quick.
On 60?
This will be in this, the big pieces of paper.
Start on the back part of the run.
Actually, I started in the front. But the beginning's a good place to start, right? Sorry about that. So if you go to the second page right here, guys.
This is the first time I've been on the right page all day. And then you went to the back.
Second page?
Second, yeah, down on the cover sheet, on the big
Second page at the bottom.
Yeah.
590 water sewer.
Yep. So there you have the Waterford Township's Enterprise Fund, the Water Sewer Fund, 590.
Not a number in the red is a black number.
Yeah, found a mistake.
The 17 million is
You don't
actually
owe
a black.
17.
17,383.3, that's a black number.
That was one of the things we left in the caption.
You gotta check to make sure everybody's still awake.
I took a couple
So we have, see the revenues coming in there projected for 2020 at 24.7. You have expenses, I'll call it operational expenses at 22.4, and then just the bond principal at 2.4. So this would be the largest. One thing different about the water and sewer fund is if you look at the CAFR, the audit, and the long-term debt schedule, we have about 32, 35, what is it, 34 or somewhere.
What's that?
Million in debt, in principal.
That's in here.
Yeah, the rest is gonna get to that, but
Yeah.
that's not related to like retiree healthcare or anything, that's construction debt, that's from OMI, that's from SRO. One thing that makes this department different, so there's debt service included in, Russ has some good analytical sheets that shows that too, when we get to it, but it's just something to keep in mind. Like when we paid cash the other board meeting, you know, we can, it's good, keep it off the books and save interest and
Save 38 grand, yep.
definitely. Now, we'll just wheel ahead to the water sewer fund, color sheets here. So we always ask every department head to identify needs, and water and sewer is good at doing that, because there's a lot of them, and there's not a criticism, because everything is done, it's just in larger dollar values that they're needed. So the light blue is a reoccurring expense, the orange is listed more as a one-time. So there is right now, was requested, and it has been, it's a recommendation to supervisor to add an employee in the water distribution service area branch. That's the group that does all the water taps, the repair water mains. They also adjust like sewer structures, all the underground excavation work, a lot of the you see big dig sites and traffic control and backhoes and excavators and
Replace sewers even?
replace
Sewer mains?
That's not a replacement, that's an additional employee, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Right, that's all I
Additional,
wanted.
yep.
Yeah, that's needed. They've brought to light a lot of good points as far as, it's reactionary maintenance and preventative maintenance, so trying to get back to some preventative maintenance, like, exercising valves, all kinds of stuff like that. Winterizing hydrants and doing the flushing of the system, which helps with water quality. So this person will help, so.
I think we had 12 people back when things were really going, you remember that, Gary, back then?
Yep.
And, you know, we're down to 6 now, and things have gotten going again, and it's been kind of rough to keep things on up. You know, by the time you get people taking vacations, if everyone, you know, has their time to take vacations, you're down to, you know, sometimes 3 guys or 2 guys down there for a couple days, so it's gotten to be pretty rough to get the taps. They've gotten busy again with all the houses and the new construction, even though, you know, rehabs. It's been hard to keep that stuff up too, plus the main breaks and service line breaks, so.
Yep. The everyday stuff.
Yeah.
Then just working down, you have, the water sewer, and that's another thing too, I'm gonna spin back here a little bit. DPW, everybody kinda, they say DPW and water and sewer, kinda use those terms interchangeably. Really, DPW is the department. Underneath the DPW, you have water sewer, then you have F&O, so. It gets a little mucky sometimes, but and the F&O side is supported by the general fund. Water sewer is completely autonomous, covered by user fees, paying water and sewer bills. So, this is all the water sewer side, which is about 75% of the operation. 2 pickups, GMC half ton, engineering division. You can see those listed there. Replacing, okay, I think the idea there is to send some older vehicles down for more like spares and limited use assignments. You can see where we have that coded under 59044. Got a double cab pickup with a plow and everything. That's for distribution.
Then there's an additional
Okay.
service body on that same line.
Same vehicle, adding something on the back to help with all their tools and everything like that.
One's 42, the other one's 48, okay.
Yeah. 10-yard dump truck, guys, this is one, I think it's replacing an older, quite an older vehicle. It needs to be addressed, it's basically at the end of its life.
We have a smaller dump than that, too, or is that?
We've got a couple smaller ones in that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, that's our big one that hauls the excavator around and stuff.
Okay, yep.
And we'll send that one to the auction. 2500 HD GMC, standard box without plow. Again, this would be for the sewer division. That was, Barb and I and Gary sat down with Russ, and that's one he's gonna put on hold for now. Not that it's not needed, but just in the spirit of trying to make everything work, that was gonna be delayed temporarily. But still a need, but I don't know right now. We listed the major system, you know, highlighted them in 2 different areas, water and sewer. So the water is the one that's had the, Baker Tilly came through and did the analysis for us, and this is work being done in the Waterford side. So basically, it's in the older section of town. I'm looking at replacing cast iron water main, it's ongoing. Working on the SCADA system, Russ and Frank, you saw Frank come before you the other night. His position was upgraded. So those guys are in-house doing a lot of this SCADA work. That's an area of expertise for us. We're lucky to have that in-house. But it's been very needed because the old system, what is that, maybe getting upwards of 20-ish years old. So it's at kind of the end of its life. So it's getting upgraded, you know, incrementally at all the different stations. But the reason that that's made possible is because the rates were adjusted. So without that, it just wouldn't be possible. We've got an interconnect with Keego Harbor. That's always good because that implies redundancy. Whenever there's an emergency or a problem, if you have another option, that is invaluable. So Russ is taking the lead on that, approaching Keego, trying to just help the reliability and the layout of Waterford system.
That's right down there across from the new building you built, isn't it?
Yes,
Right there.
yeah, right across the bridge.
Yep, okay.
Well, we're gonna actually be around the corner back and off into the sub a little bit.
Is that Otter?
I think it was Otter Beach, wasn't it?
Otter Beach, okay.
Yeah, Otter Beach First Road over
That
there.
was-
If we can get out of the main traffic, so if we have to exercise valves or whatever, we're not right out on Cooley Lake Road.
Castle, okay.
Castle Lake
Yeah,
Road,
okay,
yeah,
yep.
exactly.
I know right where you're at, yep, okay.
Okay, going to the sewer system, Tony was advocating for you, Russ, earlier. He's talking about the sewer lining, he said, isn't that important, why is it red? He said, it's greatly important, we just don't have the revenue structure to support it, so But that's coming, that's something that's being worked on. Again, it'll be the engineers working with us and Baker Tilly to do the rate analysis and then coming before the board. The good news is any rate change there, the idea is to keep it in Waterford and work on Waterford's system, which is in need of, a lot of lining. There's a lot of generators that are invaluable during power outages and different, keeping the reliability of the system going. And ongoing work with the lift stations and stuff like that. There's a budget number here for the billing system. We're on we have enterprise software with Munis, Tyler Technologies company, and that's for the whole township, it's financials. And I would call it their classic platform. So it works, it's functional, it gets the job done, but it's by no means their Flagstar software. It doesn't receive all the enhancement and the upgrades. They have another system that I'll call it it's CIS, we're in Classic, so CIS. We're gonna have their rep come out and talk to us. The analyst position that was approved a while back, that would probably be something that we would love to get them involved with. That's work that I used to do when I first started with the township. I did an absolute ton of work on that, but then started to work on the township's budget and have been very much less involved with that. So those folks that work in that area deserve a little bit more assistance, so that's what we're gonna try to do with that.
So I think that one is supposed to say to update and modernize the look and feel of DPW. Is that what you're trying to say? Instead of add?
Update and modernize the look. Yeah, and hey, you caught up with these guys. Well, thank you. Motor pool, yeah, so we're doing that's a common to all asset, and that's, we're looking to rehab that. You see if you drive through, sometime I encourage you to, when the gates are open, like drive through the DPW and the carports and the fuel island, that galvanized metal was not, I don't know the whole process, it wasn't really coated properly from day one, and it's flaking and.
It's got oil on it, so paint's just peeling off of it.
So they need to be
There's no oil on
redone.
the
It's not
bottom.
gonna fall down, but eventually it's gonna start to oxidize.
Yeah.
Is that the gate?
No, the carports that are over there,
Oh.
the vehicles are under,
Mm-hmm.
that, and also the gas.
The gas island and all the roof over there. If you go and you look underneath any of the carports, and those will be further into the budget here, but all of the paint that's on the galvanized metal underneath is just falling down.
Chunks of it are coming down.
It-
It's been for years. So we just figured
Just
we'd
deteriorating,
start
I mean.
tackling that pretty soon.
Get ahead of it before it becomes a real issue.
What do you wanna do, repaint it, or?
Well, they've gotta do something with the galvanized, whether they sandblast it or
Etch
wash it off some kind
Somehow
of.
get it to
It'd
adhere.
have to do
So
some
it
type
cracks,
of
yep, sandblasting or
sandblasting
something,
to
yeah,
keep the paint stick on it.
yeah,
If you're gonna
exactly.
paint it,
Yeah.
What we might end up doing is like, if you look at the fuel island currently, they went in and they put a soffit underneath the galvanized metal. There's a cover
yeah.
underneath the galvanized metal that it's like a vinyl. I don't know if that's a vinyl or if it's an aluminum. I haven't climbed up there personally to look it over. That was done years ago, so, but
It's still holding
it
up.
cleans up
Yeah.
the whole
Keeps the
environment.
birds from building nest up in the lights and everything, it just
Yeah,
covers
okay.
everything on up there, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
After they get it done being painted, and we won't have to deal with it again.
They get it
What
painted,
years
go ahead
ago
and
they'll
cover
put
the
in
ceilings in your
Jeez,
town.
Yeah.
20 some odd, what is it, 20
Well,
some odd
20
years
years
now?
ago,
The
the
DPW.
cardboard, she was up.
19, 18,
Yeah, they were put in when the
19.
DPW was built.
Oh, really?
They put them in, yeah.
2002, I think.
Yeah.
And you guys never done anything?
No, never had to do anything, so it's been a long time, and they've been peeling from probably day one, not day one, but within a month or so, they'd start peeling off that
Same-
galvanized
same
stuff, and it's just gotten worse and worse.
Well, repaint it, you're gonna have to sandblast it, you're gonna have oil.
Yeah, yeah, just
Now
gonna do
you
it
can do it
again.
in the next year, over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Or put, like you say, a canopy or something underneath there.
Well, even if you put the canopy underneath it, you
Right.
still,
Rust proof on it.
Yeah.
you still gotta go in
Yeah.
and coat it, so it is
Coil it
protected
with
from
that, rust
oxidation.
proofing or something, whatever,
Yeah.
you gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
figure out. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Page 60, you'll see all the revenues, water revenues, where they start, 59001. biggest one there, would you mind, Matt, is, water sales, that's water goes through the meters and the billing department, sends out quarterly bills. And one thing about that particular item, that's a hard one to budget for, because people are using less than they ever have. There's a generational component, they don't want their water, or their grass is green. There's energy efficient devices they're installing, and then we have Mother Nature too. She does not ever call us and say,
Yeah,
here's what we're gonna do next year, so. We trend on that a lot and try to be conservative, but we missed it a little bit last year, so. But there's some other projects we didn't do, so it's gonna kind of level that out. Oh, is it? I don't know how that happened. Quality control.
That's because we didn't give you a revised copy.
Oh, yeah, that's the old one.
Remember you told us when Mr. Hayes,
Oh, there you go.
we didn't give you a, you didn't get your packet.
It all adds up.
So you're not-
We're like asking, man, this is big money.
Don't worry about that.
Gary was
But we're
actually
back.
given
Especially
a
the next
pre-copy and, we didn't give him the latest and greatest copy.
Oh, it's good, the numbers all jive. Okay.
So a lot of those other ones are self-explanatory. Water meter, if in the winter, if meters freeze, or if when people tap into the system, connect to the system.
Irrigation meters.
Yeah, irrigation meters, new taps. They increase the tap, make it larger. Interest revenue on assessments, those are going away. Rentals on access points.
What is that?
What is that?
What is that? Oh, if somebody, like, say a like a charity comes and approaches us, or a contractor comes and wants to take water out of a hydrant,
Oh,
we put a meter on there with a backflow protector so they don't.
They were busy this year.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
seemed like a lot of them going.
Yeah.
That car wash up and
Southern
overtime.
Place Mall had 2 of them permanently down there, so they took that down.
okay, that
That
makes
car,
sense.
the Dyson car wash up and overtime was all summer long.
Yeah.
Every weekend they were washing.
We had the county interceptor was being cleaned and they used our hydrants over there. They
Gotcha.
drove around with their Vector truck and put it on, so, yeah, there's a
That's
lot.
right.
Every single one of our, yeah, the fruit market down there, every single one of our meters was
And
out.
Dalton told them all that was not
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So why is the interest
Very
revenue
proactive.
assessments going
Okay,
away?
I know, it changed, so.
So what that is when people would connect into the system,
Mhm.
they were given an option, you can either pay it all in
Oh,
full,
okay.
or pay over time. So that was actually designed, it's kind of interesting, it's the same on the sewer side. When the system was first put in the sixties and seventies and stuff, that was designed to help pay the bond debt on those initial projects and stuff.
Mhm.
So that debt is all gone, and now this revenue is almost all gone, so it kind of performed as designed.
Mhm.
But there's a few left, and that's a nice thing for when people come in, to give them that option. So, you don't have to pay it all in cash if you don't have it, or if you just want to spread it out. So it's good for that. Sewer revenues, 59002. The largest one being sewer usage. That's the sewer component that you're being charged and the water going through your meter. And, as you might find deeper in the budget, the largest expense that we have is the sewer treatment. So, the bill that we pay to the county, which ultimately goes to Great Lakes. That's why that number is quite a bit larger, and that's what you hear when you talk to customers. They're right. It is. It's much more capital intensive.
That's
Part of the
what
operation.
water is.
Mhm.
It's about right, 75-25. That is, that's about right,
Yeah.
75-25.
That's crazy.
So another one, if you look at naming that building, I think the township really got right after Mr. Cito, and keeping Waterford's water system separate from the city of Detroit. I think that's proved to be really wise through the years. And getting the sewer system implemented, which almost got a recall, but I think has really reaped benefits for the community. Cleaned up the lakes very significantly. So you can see the estimates there, and then we would have to adjust this if we come like first quarter next year with the rate study to do improvements on Waterford side. That would be a number that we'd look to adjust based on the recommendation and the work that would be recommended. The next one, water sewer, like the general revenues related to water and sewer. Sales assets, that's just based on vehicles that might be sold, penalty revenue. Self-explanatory interest revenue, just basing that on trends and fund balance and what we think we're gonna get there. Cell towers, those are good, you wanna see those full. If you ever look at one of those and wonder, what's all that stuff on top? This is what I always think of right here. So,
Dollars.
yeah, keep clamping them on there, that's what I tell these guys every time they
Where they can.
yeah, they can get up there, so. So that's, the three major revenue components for water sewer. And then, in general, I don't wanna take away from Russ's time and Joe's time, but you have all the different branches, pumping and treatment, distribution service, they all do important work. The pension contribution affected, water and sewer. If you go to 59044, those are the ones that are kind of, some of the ones that are out of Russ's control, I would say, largely. A lot of, like the defined benefit contribution, you know, water sewer got their share of that. On page 66 there. Let's see what else. Health insurance, a lot of this was coming up. It's a new employee starting, you know, budgeted into 2020, so that's part of what's driving that.
It's in this?
Yeah, the staffing, that analyst
Okay.
position would be one of them. Workers' comp, trending on that. Same thing, if the workforce gets a little older, but also this group probably does as physical a job as any in the township, maybe Rockland Fire Department as far as shoveling, lifting, working, I mean, they're jumping down into the.
More of it.
Yeah,
I'd say.
so,
On day-to-day
a lot of
basis.
exposure, exposures to the elements all kinds of
Especially
stuff.
when you get the main base in winter,
Mhm.
below zero.
Yeah. So, again, you're seeing the DC numbers creep up as new employees are coming in under that new benefit tier. Charge administration there at the bottom actually went down based on the Maximus study. It's based on 18's results, and there were more firefighters then, so that kind of normalized it for the water and sewer department, as far as how the costs are spread around.
So we're adding how many heads over there?
Two.
Two overall?
Yeah,
Overall, we've got the system analyst is coming in as a M&A position, and then one union position in the distribution department.
Okay. And so that was in addition, those are two complete adds, they're not replacing anybody else?
Those are new
brand new,
positions.
yeah.
Okay. Are those, I saw like in this water distribution, 70200 for the salaries is going up 155,594. Is that one of those positions or two of those positions?
That would include the
The one.
Staff
the
analyst,
staff analyst
Yeah.
for sure.
yep,
It's on page 64.
7,200 there,
64. This would be one.
66, right?
64, page 64.
We had some cleanup that we were still doing too. We said a few people that were coded to the wrong branches, so we cleaned some of that up. That's part of what that is too. We have a lot of people moving over there, so when something comes available, it's just like nonstop, keeping track of it. It's been a real chore, but that's part of what you're seeing there. It's the one new position.
One new position here
Mhm.
is increasing that?
No, I mean, that's part of the answer, and then you also have some people that shouldn't be coded there that we need to go back and double check too, I believe.
Because when they get their budget sheets, they have to break it down by segments, and there might have been an error in breaking it down by segments.
It wasn't done.
Yeah.
That's what
So we
the
have
error
people
was. We have
hitting
people
that
moving
and
it
should
all
be
over the
hitting
place.
So like when you
Anything
get your
from
clerk's
sewer,
department,
then
you
go to
have
water.
one bottom number, and that's
Oh,
it.
just
And
tons
when
of
they
them,
get
too.
their salary worksheets, it's not broken down that way.
More work
So-
groups, it's different.
Right, they have more work groups.
So in turn, we're not sure if it was,
We're gonna go back and check.
So where are the two new added positions going to be?
as far as money?
Yeah, where are they included?
Now,
in
one
here?
of those is that line.
One of them's in here, distribution, and then one will be under 59044,
Which is on page what?
66.
66.
Oh, that's that one, that's
Six.
up top.
So this is also including one new position?
Right.
If you go into the middle page, 59043, and that's what we're talking about for coding, that line item actually went down 55,000.
Which page is that?
Page 65. You were on 64 and said it went up by 155.
55,000, yes.
And the position that we were adding only equated maybe to, set 55 to 65 or,
Okay,
you know,
so it basically went up 100 grand?
you know, and so part of that might be miscoding from
It is.
59043. So like,
From page 65.
yep. It's-
So there were people that are
Wait.
currently working in service that are being coded to distribution. It's a mistake. We have to go fix it.
So the net impact for one position increase is 100,000? And if you take the 155, 594 minus the 55,
There's other
What is it?
departments that were coded incorrectly as well too, Kimberly.
We have to go back and check some of those.
There's really no making sense of it.
No.
Well,
So I
and-
think the point is it needs, and again, maybe there
It's
are
a-
errors made in the last year's budget. That they
Totally
coded.
my fault. I will take the blame for that
Not
because.
totally your fault.
Well, but I should have been tracking the changes a lot closer and dealing with payroll a lot closer, and I failed in that aspect.
That's all fixable, so we're just gonna go back and check it. Get it straightened out. What else? Then under water capital, 68, that's where a lot of that water main, or water system improvements gonna get coded. When you look at the cast iron water main, replacement treatment plant filter media. That's a project that's gonna be undertaken too. It's, start to stage that and do a plant or two a year, you know, on a rolling basis going forward. Then you have the debt, 69, you don't see the principal side, it's one big piece that's kind of, a little complex too. The balance sheet, Barb hides it away on the balance sheet.
Auditors tell me that that's technically where it is. So,
Likely story.
It's confusing.
Okay, water, electrical, sewer O&M. That's where you see that large bill from the county, that's the sewer treatment bill.
Oh, it just seemed like it was 8 million a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
a year, 8 million.
Yeah, you're blinking it.
Oh.
Just keeps going. I think that's our largest reoccurring payment in the whole township, is that.
I hope it is.
Yeah.
I wanna see my revival.
Sewer capital, 72, that's where you're gonna see, once we start to ramp up a little bit more on the Waterford side, infrastructure side, that's where that would get coded and tracked in those lines. Then the next side, you see 73C, the interest side of the long-term debt. A lot of it coming downstream. Anything that says OMI, we're paying our share of that. Some of it's internal to Waterford. There was some done a few years back, but a lot of it's out downstream. 74 hardship, that's if somebody approaches the township, they need to, or if we contact them, they are within 200 feet of a sewer main and their house is not connected to the sewer, they're supposed to connect. There's a state law that says they're supposed to connect, so. And if they can't afford it, there's a hardship panel that they can go appeal to, and that's what this would be. And then they'll pay that when their house gets sold, kind of like CDBG works.
That's interest, though, isn't
Oh, yes.
The hardship
it is.
one, yeah.
Yeah, it is. You don't pay it that moment, but when the house sells,
House sells.
it's all accumulated, yeah.
it? We have no one there that slip through the cracks.
Yes,
That would be the best.
right.
Yeah.
it was recorded, but then they didn't get it in their search. So sorry about that, guys, I just wanted to run through all that.
Were we doing anything with the warm or the fall or what was it?
Yeah, RAP,
RAP, thank you.
RAP
Yeah.
program.
So we're,
Yeah.
we've applied for the RAP program. I've sent it over to Mr. Dobry to review, and
Okay,
that's currently where it's at right now.
okay, good, because I had a couple of calls on that.
Yeah.
All right, well, Derek's pretty much gone through the majority of everything for us, but what we can do is, on the water and sewer, the one with the yellow on the front, we'll just run through this very quickly. And again, yes, I had some mistakes in the payroll, but this is a little bit more reflective here of what's actually happening. And we will get that corrected. General revenues are, you know, on the cover, if we just look at the cover sheet, you can see the principal payments, currently $2,436,014.53 comes out of my budget right off the top, just for principal payment. Now, interest is coded separately, and we'll get to that here in the presentation. Water and sewer revenue, we've just got a general overlay on the revenue summary. Couple of charts, well, a chart that it kind of shows where the revenue's coming from. So 17 million out of the sewer and roughly 2/3, at least 2/3, almost 75-25 on the revenue, not quite. General revenues, we've gone through that already. The water revenues, if you look on the right column, if you see anything there, if it's a huge difference, you'll see it either in green or in red. And if you have any questions, please, you know. The water revenue, we got that one backwards on the revenue. Should be in the green, where it's in the green at 450,000 we've estimated over last year because of the rate increase and so on. That, you know, it's kind of backwards on the revenue side, my color coding. Sewer revenues, very similar story. We've got the one huge difference would be on the sewer usage charge. That's, of course, from the Oakland County pass-through. And as Derek indicated on that sewer charge, on the sewer revenue, we're in the very end of what is the SAW grant, Stormwater Asset Management, basically is what it is. It's a state of Michigan grant. They gave us a 90% match to inspect our system, come up with a plan to move forward, and hopefully in the next couple, 3 months, we're gonna have that plan presented to you. It's gonna give us a 20-year outlook on what we're gonna do in the sewer system to rehabilitate and make sure that it's a functional system into the future.
Can't wait to see those numbers.
Well, you know, they're not nearly as bad as I expected.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, we'll get to that here next couple months.
Good, okay.
I don't wanna, you know, ruin the surprise.
No.
All right, and the water distribution, this is just an overall water sewer expense summary. We'll get more in depth in each one of those. Again, a couple of charts to kind of give you a visual of water and sewer revenues, expenses, pardon me. We've got the big pie that's broke up, the 2020 W&S expenses. This is basically a breakdown of per department. We've got our pumping and treatment, that's, you know, the people out filtering the water, getting the iron out of the water. Water distribution, water services, that's the meter group. General administration, that's all the office and everything there. Water capital is the investment that we're making in the infrastructure. Water and sewer debt interest, you can see what a large portion of the pie that just the interest gets. The electrical services, they're only 1%, so, but I'll tell you what, we couldn't live without those guys. Sewer O&M, there's our big expense. And then the sewer capital, another small service, small portion of the pie. That is what we expect to increase with the SAW grant studies, rate studies and so on. Engineering services, again, couldn't live without them, but a very small piece of the pie. Then on the 2020 water and sewer expense by category, contractual expense would be any engineering services, the wastewater treatment, any of those type expenses. Labor is just the payroll, and then supplies expense. You know, you can see we're not spending a whole lot on supplies when you look at the big picture here. And then on the bar graph, it's just the trend. You can see it going up. It's a little bit misleading because last year I had the extra water main and sewer in there. So last year, where we had that big spike, it's actually not quite so high. We're gonna get those numbers upgraded. You know, that was based on proposed, and I think this trend would have a lot more impact if it was on the actual numbers, and that's what we're gonna reflect in next year's budget hearing. So pumping and treatment, if we move down through this one, you can see we really haven't had any major increases. We did go up $10,000 in public utilities. Our water sewer system supplies, well, that's down 35,000 because I had projected last year to do some additional phosphate treatment for corrosion control, and we just haven't been able to get through the EGLE, which used to be the MDEQ, but it's the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. Well, the permitting process and everything, so they're being very slow acting on that. I don't see it happening this year, so I dropped basically the extra phosphate out there. That's why you're seeing that 35,000 reduction. The contract R&M systems, we're getting caught up on a lot of the maintenance that we were doing. I've moved some of the SCADA repairs from the contract R&M from pumping and treatment over to the water capital. So we'll see an increase in water capital there. All right, so if we move into the water distribution on the next page. Okay, on the water distribution, you see the number of the 83,000 increased on the payroll. That's one of the new positions, plus just the percentages of increases and the moving of employees as higher seniority employees. And, you know, it's just a lot of juggling been going on in that department, to say the least, a lot of juggling.
That's proposed, is that 2020 or is it 2019? This is 2019, it's supposed to be 2020.
You're right,
Okay,
it should be 2020.
Okay.
You have 3 more to catch up to me and Barb.
3 more?
At least.
We got a lot of pages here, so I'm pretty sure I can achieve that. So, moving down, Derek's took a lot of my budget there and defined contributions and FICA and retiree healthcare. But on the contract R&M distribution, you'll see an increase of 17,500 there. That's because Oakland County forces us to bore under the roads. We used to have this, what they call a bullet, and we could just shoot this bullet underneath the road with air and do our service line replacement that way. The county is requiring us to do boring, so we're hiring a contractor to do the boring. It would cost us nearly, I'm realistically about $200,000 to set up to do it ourselves. I'm not ready to make that investment. We'll contract that out. In addition to that, this year we also did some contracting of the yard repairs. With distribution being down so low in employees, we didn't have time to go out and do the yard repairs after you know, after we dug up on both sides of the road to put in a new service line or whatever. So we contracted a lot of that out. The 17,500 probably isn't going to be enough, but at some point I'm expecting the service line replacements to
Drop.
settle back a little bit.
Is that the slant drilling that they do?
It's directional, yeah.
Directional.
You'll
Yeah.
see them with a machine that's got the
Tracks on it.
the tracks, but the bits going down at an angle. Yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing. And part of that is the lead service line replacement. We've got some of that going on where when we do a directional drilling like that, we can't achieve it. They can drill right into the basement, right within a 2-inch circle. They could literally put a 2-inch circle inside the basement. They can bore right in there, connect to a new service line and pull that back.
Really?
And it is pretty amazing to witness that, but the state has mandated we replace lead service lines from the water main all the way to the meter. You know, what's private property at the curb stop or at the property line, that's where our service stops. After that, it's private, but the state says if they've got lead service, you own it. So we are replacing those. And we're just about done. I think we've only done probably 15 or 18 of them total, maybe 20.
Well, how's the state say you own it?
That's-
It's on private property.
And it's gonna be challenged in court, there is no doubt,
Upper
because,
level government, federal, state,
Yeah.
county.
As soon as Flint had that happen, it's been
Wow.
just crazy. Even our treatment, everything costs has went up.
well,
You
it-
can pass the cost down to local municipalities, you know.
We didn't have the
They're not gonna take
problems
them,
here.
they're not gonna bite the bullet.
Right,
We
we
didn't
didn't
have
have
the
the problem, but
problems in
everyone's
water,
getting
but
it.
guess
No.
what?
Everyone's getting
It's
it.
on our dime to fix
Yeah.
it.
it is.
White Lakes have those problems right
Yes.
now, I think.
Oh, yeah.
A few other places.
I had to replace the line that went from the, out at the road to my house.
Yeah,
Yeah, cause it was lead and it broke. But
so you
I-
did that before,
Yeah,
the
Before
Flint
this got
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's your responsibility,
Yeah.
on your property.
yeah.
It is private property.
And if it's plastic or copper and it happens now, it's still the homeowner's responsibility to do
Right.
it, you know, from
Oh,
the
I
curb
think
box.
so.
So,
What
yeah.
year was your house built, Margaret?
29.
29, really? Okay.
That neighborhood that's the neighborhood back over there that we have most of them in though. You know,
Yeah.
Lincolnshire, Oakshire, that
Yeah.
whole area
And
there, so.
it was under my driveway. I don't know if I told you this before, but it was sprouting up water, you know, under my driveway. And the guy, I come up here and I said, who would you recommend? And they recommended somebody, and so I had, him put the line in, and he just put a laser line in my front yard, just dug a little ditch like this and went into my basement wall,
Just like that.
just like
Done.
that. And then he came back, like 3 months, well, can you pay me now? I mean, I was just waiting.
Right, right. Like that kind of a deal.
Yeah.
What year did
You
that
gotta
water
do it.
system go in over there? Had to be ahead of ours.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
That is the old Pontiac water
Old
system.
Pontiac water
Okay.
system, exactly.
Clear over to there. I didn't realize it.
I know it.
For the prayer and garden stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, luckily, we don't have a lot of that, but, now the state's talking about galvanized water mains, water lines, galvanized services are gonna have to be replaced too.
Why?
That's-
Why, yeah,
Because the tuberculation inside, the buildup of, crusties inside the galvanized
Carbon and
pipe,
everything, yeah.
that will harbor lead, that will contain the lead. The lead will find a pocket in there and sit.
Then what's next? All
I
the
know.
copper water lines
Right.
inside the residential structures
Right,
and
they're already looking at copper.
lead-based soldering. That's the next thing.
I know. There's all kinds of, I mean,
Well, and,
And
down the road will be
Yeah.
plastic if you watch, it's just wood.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
currently
plastic.
putting plastic in, and,
Yeah.
and years down the road, they're gonna find something wrong with
Something
the
plastic.
plastic.
But my water, my
You know,
water
every
system,
now and
my
then
hot
they
water
found
system is
issues with
copper.
other types of plastics.
Yeah, the
I know.
PFAS, everything going on there. So a lot of that number, that 17.5, is probably not sufficient, but that's what we're moving with. You know, and the yard repairs is something that we just started this year. We've never done yard repairs, I mean, we always did it in-house, but we just haven't had the people to do it in-house, so we went outside. We got some contractors, and I think it's worked out very well, actually. We go through and we get the whole township cleaned up, and then we're done.
Yeah.
And then in the fall, we
Within
do
a
it
month.
one more time, you
They'll
know?
knock out 100 of them, done.
A lot of calls,
People like
those
that,
people
yeah.
care
Right.
about their
Right.
garbage.
Especially as they get in the year when they want the
I know,
whole
it's
summer
not
to
a
be, you know,
problem.
get everything planted and everything done, they like it better. It was rough this year at the beginning, so we did that.
You look at it this way, that much less you have to mow.
Right? Exactly, yeah.
Doesn't go over well, but.
No, throwing stones in the window. The mower.
All right, then on our next page here, we have the water services. These are the meters and so on. We're getting caught up with the meter change-out program. We're basically done with that. Where we're having some issues is with changing over to the R900 meter readers. You know, that was the big deal that we had, about a year ago. We're having some investment there, but it's less than what we have been doing because of the volume of the meter change-outs. So our meter supplies have actually gone down a little bit. Other than that, water and sewer general administration. This is kind of the nightmare account right here, trying to track all this. We've got a lot of lines, there's a lot of moving parts, lots of good information. Derek took a big chunk on my healthcare there. And then moving to the next page, you see retirement was another big chunk on our system. Workman's comp, it's like, okay, lighten up, guys. Going through Barb and Derek's numbers is like, wow. Defined contribution, of course, I actually like the defined contribution going up because that means our pension system's going down. You know, those legacy costs will eventually, at one day, probably never see it myself, but one day those legacy costs will come down.
Somebody will reap the rewards.
Someone will. The township eventually will
Yes.
gain from that. But moving past that, just office supplies, moving up $1,000 there, just, you know, things are getting a little more expensive. Postage, of course, they're moving up. Uniforms, we seem to be buying a lot of uniforms for new people. I don't know what's going on there. It's just, we're rotating staff like no other. So we moved up on that. Services, legal, just kind of a trend, moving up on the trend there. The wellhead protection program, we were gonna not really abandon that program, but we weren't gonna make any investment in that program. But after the budgeting, we did actually apply for that grant again. So as the grant comes in, whatever we receive, then we'll reinvest into our wellhead protection program. Here's a good one. Now this is where Derek and Barb were on my side, doing me a big favor with the service administration. You know, that's the, with the enterprise fund, the general fund for, you know, all of our HR services, payroll, all kinds of good services there. Actually dropped, and it's because of the fire department is my understanding. They have less.
They had the safer grant, so that means there was more people in that department than normal. So that spread the weight of all the administrative fees across the departments differently. And again, so then that lifted a little bit of weight from water and sewer, added it to fire.
Actually affects the general fund too, because they actually get administered this fee, so it helped the water sewer fund, and actually cash-wise did not help the general fund, but that's the ebbs and flows of how that.
That number
how
is
that goes.
calculated.
Yeah.
It is based each year on report.
Contingency, we just moved up 60,000 in the contingency. It's just basically a placeholder for emergencies. Legal settlements, we put some money in the legal settlements.
For a minute, wanted to ask Barb, do I still cash flow, take from water and sewer and put in the monthly, contribution for the administration fee?
That would be, at the beginning of the year is when I'll tell you the amount to
Okay.
transfer.
I know, but I've been taking it out all along.
On a monthly basis
Yes, I mean, every 2 weeks,
for the administrative fee?
yes.
Then we can
Per
talk
your
about that.
instructions, yeah,
Because that's normally done at the beginning of the year.
okay.
So unless it's a different type of fee that, that has a similar type.
Okay, so, all right, so I'll wait for instructions from you.
Just keep the money coming.
Yeah,
Don't stop.
Oh, no, it's
No, it's taken away.
Taking it,
Taking
Might be
away.
taking it away, but again, there's other things that are
Big large
similar titles, so, next time you do the transfer, give me a call, or are ready to, give me a call and we'll discuss
okay,
the dollar figure you're transferring and so
Okay.
forth.
All right, so here, under the computer licensing and consulting fees, we actually went up in the licensing and consulting, but what's happening is some of our computer licensing, we're using less expensive software. We've rolled back on some of those. They were extremely expensive maintenance programs on some of the software. You can see we rebalanced the IS a little bit. So you see the big savings on IS, but actually both have gone down, but it's reflected in the IS service. And then insurance, that's not my number, I don't know where that one came from, but I appreciated it very much.
General liability.
Once in a while, these numbers go in your favor.
Once again, the spike, as everybody else has, so.
Public utilities, we went up, yep. Mitigation, water and other, it's kind of a placeholder value there. Telephones, no changes. Contract R&M vehicle, as our fleet becomes newer and we don't have that factor to maintain so much anymore, that has been trending down significantly, so $20,000 savings there. Contract R&M computer, all of our computer equipment in our building, we're now all on Windows 10. We've got pretty much all new machines throughout the building. We're in pretty good shape, so we dropped down our contract R&M computer, all new switches, we got a lot of new equipment in the building, thank goodness. Contract R&M computer, now, that's the IS, and I'm not sure why we went up there. Kind of a balancing,
For the 83,000?
yeah, exactly. Took it out of,
The IS lines are usually for Jared's project.
Jared's stuff.
And the one without the IS is specifically for water and sewer. So if he's got a project, he'll code it to that line and know that he's got a budget amount. So he must have some type of a project.
Township-wide.
Township-wide that affects water and sewer. And so when he goes over them, he'll be able to explain that. And then water and sewer has their own computer needs.
and we have our contract R&M building, that's just our building and maintenance that we do in the building. That, we got caught up with the big HVAC project and the roof is now in good shape. We're making headway and progress on getting the building back to good shape. Let's see, not a whole lot of change on this page, except for the capital building improvements. That 100,000 that's been saved there, that was, in part the pole barn that the FAA will not allow us to build, so we rolled that out of the budget. Let's see, capital computer equipment, again, we had last year budgeted for a scanner, so this year we did not have that wide format scanner in, so that brought that down. Vehicles, the 63,000, that's the 2 engineering vehicles that we have. All right, water capital infrastructure, we did some rebalancing here as well. Down 310,000, that was the, that's the difference, 310. Oh, because of the water main project, but what we did is we moved it down to capital infrastructure preservation. So we're kind of between the infrastructure and infrastructure preservation, trying to kind of balance those out a little bit. But without the the large projected water main project that I had in there, it shows a big reduction. And again, those numbers, the actuals are different than what I projected, but this sheet reflects what we had projected last year. So then, all right, capital vehicles, 230,650. That is the balance, the 2 distribution pickup trucks and the 10-yard dump truck. And that's that $230,000 number. Moving on, water, sewer, debt. This is where it gets interesting. These are all the bonds. And the numbers really don't show it as well as, if you look, I've got a couple of trends in the back. I've got some charts that really kind of give it some impact. The first chart, the 2020 bond payments, anything where you see the yellow, those are the Oakland County bonds. And you know, you can basically get a feel for how much we're paying in bonds there. But the next trend, the principal balance, this is the one I think shows the best. It's got the red bar chart. You can go back from the 2020 bond payments indicates, you know, we're paying a lot in the interest there, the red lines, but on the next chart, the principal balance. Here again, anything in red on the numbers on top, that is the OMI, that's the Oakland County. So our total balance to OMI right now is $15,463,601. Our total bond, that's everything, that includes the sewer upgrades that we did. We bonded for the meter project, for the meter replacement project, and there was some other improvements that have been done. But the total bond, everything that we owe in the DPW is about $32,199,070.
And going back to what his kind of point is also is that OMI, the county projects weigh quite heavily. I think we've prepaid maybe at least $5 million. In addition to the $1 million that, or just under $1,907,000 that was just approved, $5 million was already prepaid as one-time payments.
Yeah. And, you know, there's more of those coming too. And I was very fearful for the numbers originally, but I've reevaluated and got some insight now from the Clinton Oakland sewer disposal system, and it's not near as bad as I thought. We're probably not gonna be facing a, you know, $20 million bond like I was originally thinking. We're probably down closer to $5 million.
Ooh, big difference.
Yeah, well,
That's just for the next set of projects, correct?
well, and there's none on the horizon currently, other than this big east pump station over in Macomb County. That's the big one. But where my interpretation of the numbers were wrong was the Clinton Oakland sewer disposal system only owns about 1/3 of that lift station. Macomb County owns 2/3 of that. So that really helped our costs significantly. I thought we were gonna be liable for the whole thing. When I was originally at the Clinton Oakland sewer disposal meetings, it sounded like, no, this is our project, we're gonna be taking this on. And this last meeting, it was much clearer that Macomb is taking 2/3 of that project on. It's like, yes, bonus.
Yeah.
And then the electric, not a lot of change there at all. Sewer operations, we've had a lot of, again, in the salary rebalancing, you can see the difference there, and that was my issue. We're gonna get that cleaned up. You're not gonna see a number like $102,000 less. That's all been, we're working on rebalancing all that. Very embarrassing, and I apologize for that. We've got the sewer service treatment, $260,000 was what we're forecasting is the increase for the wastewater treatment services. Sewer operations, that's the bottom line from the page before. Yeah, I was gonna say, there's not a lot of significant change there. Overall, 120,000 change from last year. Sewer capital infrastructure. On the preservation, we've gone up. I put the 400,000 in there because that's what we actually invested in 2019. And we're moving that up to 110 more, so 510 on 2020 budget. And again, as the SAW grant comes out, you'll see in great detail what that's all about. And then down here at the bottom, we had projected the Vector. We were denied, but then it got put back in, so it's kind of there at 450,000, 457,000. That's a lot of money for a truck. Hardship connections, we went up 2,000 there. As we pursue connections that are within 200 feet of a sewer main, we're kind of forcing that issue. We expect some hardships to come out of that. Engineering services, again, not a lot of change there, other than, you know, employee benefits, retiree stuff. But that's the majority of the water and sewer. And what time am I supposed to be done? I'm supposed to be done at 3 o'clock? Let's,
That's not too bad.
we got the
I
F
think
and O, we
F&O
can
too,
quickly
But then
run
in
through.
turn, I think, yeah, so we start late.
F and O. Now, I'm going to say right up front, when Dan left, a lot of my information left on the F and O budget. He had been working very hard on this, but I do have a pretty decent concept on what was going on in the F and O. Again, health insurance, retirement, big numbers going up. I don't understand the retiree health benefits went down to 14,000, which I'm glad to see it. Other than that, moving through the F and O, there's really,
Just people related stuff, staff.
the staff is, and most of the numbers maintained a constant. And to be honest with you, the budget has been in pretty good shape in F and O this year. You know, a lot of that due to having the capital improvement budget to work with too.
Yeah, did you guys, oh, go ahead.
It's coming up here in the. So if we move past the F and O facility and operation into line item detail, the first page with the blue, this is where the capital improvement expenses are in. This is where we're spending a lot more of the general fund dollars on capital improvement stuff. Capital infrastructure, the 32,000, and I believe Derek's got that in yours, don't you?
Yeah, we run through that. We already did once with the board, but on this sheet here, the colorized ones, page 5, the one that says township wide. It's really should have said
Yeah.
improvement of all of them. but You can see the different projects that are there. Part of this will be run by the DPW, the F&O superintendent, largely will be tasked with running some of these projects, but then Rob Marinsky hits some of these too. So we got the drain project, the study that Rob's gonna do. Street lights, that's another thing that Dan was helping us with. That has been moved over, at least all the districts and stuff, the new planner is now helping us out, that's Scott. Yeah, so we'll have to have a meeting. if the board is inclined to let this program roll out into the neighborhood. Start rolling out the LED streetlights. We'll get that going. Oh, okay. Actually, there's two things going on here. We got Rob's study for the township's drain, and then, I remember the first round of budget meetings, we said, we're also gonna put a number in there in case you find something that needs to be addressed, and he says, well, I already got one. And so I didn't even know that, he just like immediately, there's something that's already critical before, like, it's kind of ironic. It's like, yep, I can use that immediately. I'm like, oh, okay. Pedestrian pathway, kicking that up, 75,000. So that Dan was helping with that too, so that, then we're trying to hire a new engineer on the water sewer side. So they were helping to facilitate that too. Whether that ends up being the F&O superintendent or the engineer, we'll just have to see, but that's been increased. And then the road has been recommended, 365,000. That's the north connector of the boulevard, and then sidewalk along the side next to the tennis courts and police department.
Parking. Yeah.
Trying to add to some of the safety and walkability of the middle school. The Riverwalk connector on Crescent Lake Road. And then the, this is more a Rob, I think it'll also be a Rob Marinsky thing, working with the board. The 75,000 for the street light, or for the SAD for neighborhood roads. And then F&O managed one, so yeah, the rest of the main thing right now is, what's been proposed is the first floor of Township Hall, looking at the auditorium, starting in with the seating and the carpeting or whatever's gonna be the surface down there, whatever's selected. And then working out from there, looking at the public bathrooms, and then depending on how resources are going, because sometimes scope creep and you find stuff and you're like, ooh. So then we'll see if we get over to Margaret's area with carpeting and stuff like that. So
We'll give you that hand vacuum.
we'll see.
Maybe we'll give her a real vacuum if she gets some carpet.
And then there's some money in there for the cemetery. We've got it listed under boards and signage, but Russ had mentioned a couple other projects too. But basically, the cemeteries need some attention, and they've been waiting patiently and doing what they can, but there's some resources set aside there. And then the F&O share of the door access controllers, that would be the general fund portion of that project at the water sewer building.
Yep.
You missed the 110,000.
Oh, pardon me.
The 110,000 is like a facility audit to look at the major mechanical systems in our major buildings, because they're all becoming older, and it's like, we know they're old, we know, but is there repair and maintenance that needs to be done, or will they at some point need to be replaced? A combination of the two, but F&O hasn't had the ability to put their hands around it, and so they need some extra help. Again, whoever is chosen to be the new F&O person will have that project, but again, there's the money available to get it off the ground, and that will help in the future to help us, guide us as to, you know, are these big projects that are gonna need a lot of money, or something moderate along the way?
So that's not in the budget right now. That's something we're bringing to the board to discuss. That'd be an engineering firm basically walking around, looking at the heating and cooling and air conditioning, you know, really doing analysis, or, you know, windows, how much are we losing, R factors, and insulation, and just really going through. I mean, you see the department heads, the stuff is so easy because we haven't done anything for so long. It's just spilling out, where it's like, it's easy to pick stuff off. But Barb's pointing out, should we be a little bit more strategic potentially and look at some of the major core systems?
Very similar to the state mandate of what they're calling an AMP plan, or the asset management plan for your water and sewer system. We're gonna bring to the actual buildings and have an asset management plan. Evaluate all the buildings, get
It's an idea, yeah.
a grading on which one of these projects do we need to do first? Which one are we gonna see the more return for? That's kind of the concept of that.
but they're expensive, because they're comprehensive and they require specialists and very trained, highly trained people. At the end, we'd get a nice report, I'm sure, pictures and all that stuff, but
We might find
stuff.
more than we want to
know.
look at, but if
You
it's
gotta know.
there, we need to know. And sometimes too, is we're making choices between, you know, somewhat relevant, important projects, but there might be a few sitting in the wings that we're not even aware of that actually need to be addressed more than the ones that we're currently picking.
Hey Russ, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Sort of curious, about the water usage through fire hydrants?
The water, if we have a rental of an access point or a hydrant, we can't call them hydrants because, you know, they're water access points.
Such a.
But no, we do have meters with backflow preventers, and they are metering the water.
Is that expense then? Is that an expense for the township?
It is an expense to, well, yes, but we're charging for the water usage.
Revenue reimbursement for the expense of the usage of
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
So I mean, would that be to the residents, say it was a residential part or commercial part? They're back charged? for
Oh,
the
you
use
mean
of-
Just
in a
fire.
fire event? No, no, that's,
No,
I was thinking you were like,
from the meters.
for the fruit market down here, you know, they were connected to a fire hydrant. I was thinking on a rental type thing.
Okay.
Keep the dust
No,
down.
No.
or the mall, keeping the dust down, those are rentals that we are charging for.
But not for
But if
fire.
there's a fire, no,
It's
that's,
just water used to
Yep.
save somebody's lives?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
How
common
many
to
tank
all.
dollars that
We
work?
have a water main break, same thing, that's stuff we're losing right there until we get it shut down.
yeah, I'm sure that's probably gonna be coming.
Low frequency, high severity, not too many.
Wouldn't that be something?
Well, you know, I just,
Handful, I don't know.
as much regulation as we're currently seeing implemented on the water systems, I can't imagine they're just gonna ignore it. You know, they're looking at absolutely everything we do in the water system. There's no doubt we are probably one of the most scrutinized industries out there right now, and thank goodness.
Yes, well, of course they will.
Yep.
It's a big thing, the political
Yeah.
hot potato right now.
Well, the fact that they can measure parts per trillion, you know. You know,
Unbelievable.
I mean, they're gonna find things. And
Well,
it,
sure they
like
are.
we were saying earlier, lead is now the evil service, you know, service provider, but, you know, it's gonna be plastic, it's gonna be copper, it's
Yeah,
gonna,
copper's
they're
coming
gonna
up.
find everything.
Well, except now they're going galvanized pipe, there's a problem with that, well,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, it could harbor lead. We can't have that evil lead anyway in the system. Rather than replacing those, maybe you put in corrosion control and, you know, actually use that, and now your lead numbers are under control. But if somebody replaces a road or something and you're running a high pack, you know, one of the rollers with the vibrator in it, that'll break all that lead loose from the water mains.
Of course,
So,
it doesn't end.
no, it doesn't.
We're gonna be,
The lead.
we take tails and pull it out of the lakes and boiling it. So it's coming down to
Go
it.
back to the horse and buggy.
Yeah.
But other than that, currently, that's the water and sewer and F&O budget. Any questions that you have,
We're hiring.
Well, yeah, maybe when you say that.
Trying to,
Yeah.
trying to.
we've
John's
got
done more interviews and shaking more hands, he's like, he's ready to run for office.
Yeah.
Arlene, what was it, last week, sent me an email, says, I will have your 700 job postings up next
sometime
week.
next
You know? It's not
It's
quite
been a-
that bad, but
yeah.
it
No,
was,
it's
it
been
was
a busy
cute.
year.
I enjoyed that email very much.
Brand new staff, pretty much down
But
there.
actually, all levels, from
Yeah.
management to
Yeah.
entry level to
Well, I think
highly
we
specialized.
implemented a request for personnel form, and you've been numbering them, and the last one came through at 29 hirings this year into the township.
I always label them, I go like 2919-1, 2919-2, and we're up to,
I
yeah,
think it's 29, I think the last one.
Wow.
same with budget amendments, we're up into the 30s or 40s.
Big years.
Yeah, big year.
We've got a relatively new staff
Yeah.
in the DPW right
Brand new
now.
staff.
It's true.
And that's
If
tough to
you
keep
get somebody
things
enough
going
to know,
too.
can you make me happy, put some rails in the auditorium instead of a foot? I asked for rails all along the wall, and I think they put a 2-foot one.
I think Ron said he put in 15 feet, and if we
Okay.
need it all the way down,
I think that for the American Disability Act, I think, you know, Sandy Worth from the planning commission had a hard time walking down the path down there. She had to grab onto each chair. She was, Tony, why don't we have a rail here? I don't know, we'll try to get you one. And then we got that, you say 15 foot, I say 2 foot, but it was very, very small, so
I'll get on
I
that.
don't think it's really a big expense.
Hugo had a price that was just under like
Get
$10,000.
out of here.
I-
A piece of wood and some steel.
No, this was all custom.
Well, we
Steel
don't need custom stuff, we
Yeah.
just,
We just need a basic.
yeah.
Well, and that's,
Just a
when I saw this
rod.
quote, and this was just a couple months ago, I was
Gary
looking at this.
Gary could carve one out in his garage overnight, I'm sure.
The gate for the stairway on the outside of the building, did you guys do that, the F and O folks?
Yeah.
What was that price? It seemed like I saw something, it seemed very high.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
And I don't know if that gate, just so you know, is latching correctly at the bottom,
we're gonna,
The stairway?
yes.
at the top, yeah.
At the bottom is the latch, I don't think it's latching correctly.
There's a gate at the
But
bottom.
Sandy had a hard
Yeah.
time
There's one
walking.
at the top and one at the bottom.
Yes,
Yes, there is.
they won't be able to
She
walk
does
up
come in
on
all the way in the front. She goes, look, you're going down
Whose
there.
day wants to?
F and O wanted to be able to lock it in the winter so people, because we don't shovel it.
Right.
So they didn't want people going up downstairs.
Right, I thought it was more down safety.
Well, that
The guy
too.
shot himself.
Well, I think that's all right.
Yeah,
They're very confident she could,
Yeah.
and even for people in the audience,
I
so.
think they
You know, it's just something needs to be up there, it's not for Sandy.
And it's like this, I could be wrong, or
It could
big.
be
Yeah.
for everybody.
It just seemed like,
Put in a long time ago.
I,
Is there a gate in there?
seemed like that's what it was.
Crazy.
I wonder if that wasn't the gate for the DPW when
The car.
one of the part-timers drove through
And
it.
I think that, I don't think
Was that
that
maybe
big
what it
that
was?
much.
So is there anything else
Yeah, check out our
for
big Grant's gate.
water and sewer, F
All
and O, or
around. He went to go in his car, and he stood far away from the car leader. So
any
he reached over.
questions?
Break is real quick.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and then we'll come back.
Restroom real quick. Dawn, that cough doesn't sound good.
It's only
Part of the deal.
third in the township.
I heard you a couple
I've had
times
it
already.
since, I've had it since I got out of the hospital in 16 and it
Really,
just
I
like
just
staying.
feel it though, right in your chest.
Rather not.
That's what she says.
She said if she can get her office,
It's
so
dry.
keep in mind, it would probably go, and she's stuck next door.
It's dry in here too.
Is it dry? Okay. That's why
I got a
I'm
humidifier in
coughing
my
too.
office, so I'm not quite as bad in my office.
I heard you a couple times. Boy, it's hurting my chest just listening.
Oh, they shoot my.
We're recording.
You know, it's
All
my-
right. Well.
I'll come and get you.
I was trying to watch the World Series the other night. I kind of know some of the ex-Tigers,
Yeah.
but then other than that, in the old days, I watched the World Series almost.
Well, Verlander's pitching tonight.
Okay,
That might capture it, you know.
If it goes to game 7, I'm hoping Scherzer's healed up, he can
it's
pitch.
1, 2,
I even think about the old days when it would be. like
1,
10
2.
o'clock and 10
There's a
o'clock
third
right there,
page in.
and I would- Just because I like that.
Yeah.
old days, you know, it's John Smoltz and,
yeah.
and Jack Fox. Hey, but they're okay.
What is this? I want to see
No.
Tim about this guy.
Oh, wait,
Joe.
here, yes,
Joe.
I do.
Joe.
Joe Buck, I've seen him, he has a lot of
See
football.
if it's on there.
He's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
thank
fine.
you, yes.
You want to take a snooze?
I need it.
Just like, when we had Dan Patrick at the Lions
Yeah.
games. And then, of course, Bruce Martin and Redmond was on the radio. Bruce Martin was not a good television announcer, but he was good on radio.
He's a fat guy from New York, Mel Allen.
No,
He was kind of fun to listen
We
to.
did this week in baseball.
Yeah, I like watching
When we were
that.
kids, that was like the highlight show before Sports Center, right?
He just had a real way of,
college football to keep that. So
We went up to the Holly Hotel one night, and they had a guy out there, and he
What?
did, Gary, I'm telling you what, I had tears running down my cheeks, I was laughing, so.
Oh, that, you had the Cubs game.
Oh,
Paul Carey, our guy, he always,
Oh, but another bottle of Mohawk.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah,
they said he was.
yeah, but another bottle of Mohawk.
you go start to sing the, take me out to the ball game, you're just like, he's not gonna fall out of that box.
I know, well, now you did it, he hung on, whoa.
Holy crap.
Almost went down there, but, oh, jeez, it was hilarious. And the one gal that, the ones, my buddy, his wife didn't know who he was. Donna
You
knew,
know
but
that
we're laughing, and
guy
she's
that was
laughing, and she's
retiree
thinking,
from.
I know who he is, but he's hilarious. Zero Gary.
Hey Gary,
Yes.
do you know a guy that retired from the DPW, Tartarsky, or, he was there and talked to Brenda and I and Cindy and all that, and he was said, you know, he was good to go, smile on your face. Then he showed us up at the meeting last night and had to say it all over again. But that's his right,
Sure is.
yeah.
Called again today, there was a message, when I went down lunchtime, there was a message from him to call him back. So, when I get in at 6:30 tomorrow morning, I'll call him. I called you back.
Yeah.
Say when.
Liberal budget, so time is limited.
Really?
When I went to that youth assistance thing, it was a real good time.
It is a spot, isn't it?
Yeah, I worked the trip.
Which one?
Youth assistance.
Oh, yeah, if you do the systems, that's a good thing.
It's kinda hard money, yeah, it is. Yeah, we didn't cover that yet.
850.
Yeah.
That's the first one that got me
What is it, 8350?
From 7 to
7850. That was 75, 8850.
750.
750.
The funny thing is,
So now we just-
in this
So do you want me
version
to
of the
start?
budget, youth assistance doesn't even.
Account, you can do your part, or I could just, I don't know how much there is to buzz through on this.
It's only
Page-
has two items and I'm gonna defer to be determined. Cause it's a part-time, my part-time raise and it's, I heard you talking about it and I heard that you're trying to work out something for the part-timers.
Yeah, it's a,
So she's a part-timer with, she's retiring part-time, so she's limited to 1040. 1,040 hours.
Mark's looking here, I'm just.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 20 hours a week.
Yes, right,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I'm going to leave it to Barb and Derek, because I assume
Yeah,
Gary?
because in the past, positions like Connie's, which they were non-union, part-time, did not get negotiated for raises. So they had kind of been left behind. So I think we're trying to work on something where if a certain contract's approved, then for a certain rate, then these people would kind of follow, whether it be M&A or Teamsters or whatever, so that they don't get left behind.
Okay.
Where is she, 1734?
Yes. And Barb, you had my thing from before that I submitted with Bonnie's.
Yeah, I've got that.
Okay. And, I see that you're saying you're giving her a raise, but only from Sharon. But you're only giving her a grade 4, step 6. That's what you're suggesting anyways.
Right, that's in the-
Okay?
That's what's coded currently in the budget.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, one step in grade.
Is that negotiable?
Well, just like Paul, like, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Say,
Well, she wants to be a grade 6, step 5. And that would be,
After 6 months.
yeah.
What would be what's the normal process to get,
I would like to see her go all the way through it. Grade 6, step 1. Yeah.
Grade 6, step 1.
Yes,
So she's-
because that's only, yeah.
Where do you want her to end up, at 6?
I guess part of the discussion also becomes is, you know, what other comparable positions are out there that might be looking to see if this position goes from a grade, there's merit as to level and job responsibility, there's also, do other people who have similar positions,
I don't think she can be
Is there-
compared to anybody else.
there are other staff and accounting positions that have similar levels of responsibility. And so that's, I think, part of the,
might be a different,
Viewpoint.
even a different department, different work, but.
Right,
But
right. So like
cognitively, they're
Arlene
the
and,
same.
Arlene would be.
or the staff accountant position that's going to be filled at DPW, that's only currently a grade, they'll start at the lower side of the pay scale, but that's a level 4 position.
It's calling for a bachelor's, I think, minimum.
Yeah, so it's a person who would be doing accounting and analytical work for specifically water and sewer, and they are a grade 4. And they would start low and then work up. So if the position in payroll is something similar, you know, and if there's other considerations that you want to bring out, you know,
What is she right now, 3.5?
Yes,
because again, once these are reviewed, there's other people who look to see what their level and job responsibilities are.
and I think you all got the attached. Yeah, that she does.
You want her to go to a 6.5?
6.4. No, 6.5.
Eventually,
After 6 months.
yeah.
so what you've approved, what we've tentatively approved takes her to a grade 4, step 6.
Yes,
So it moves her up a grade and a step.
yes. Oh. Okay, you've got one.
30% pay increase.
Oh, or
And
what we've approved
if
is
you-
30%?
That would be a 30% pay increase from a 3.5 to a 6.5 would be 29.96%.
And she went to management, but she did not get a raise. She stayed at her same position, and she hasn't received, I have it on my sheet.
How long does it take somebody to move through a step?
Oh,
6
6-month
months.
increments is what it's.
for a
6
2-year,
months.
for a 2-year period. But then there's kind of like, then they kind of max out because it is assumed that the job responsibilities in their job description matches their pay, step and pay grade.
Okay, so they've attained the highest.
Right, so then
level.
in turn, good, bad, or indifferent within the structure of the township, and especially M&A, these people kind of remain in that position until possibly another opening of, you know, like if
Another
Bonnie's
position
position
comes open.
would become open, then she would be eligible to apply for that type of position and, you know, set the stage for that.
So other than the 2% per year from 2012 to 2019, she didn't get a raise, other than the 2%.
When did she go from Teamsters to M&A?
In 2011. Yeah, 2011,
2011, she went to M&A?
yep,
That was a 3-5.
yes.
She didn't go to like a 3-1 and then go through the steps.
No.
Just out of curiosity, why did she do that?
Because it was being a conflict of interest, because there were people from the Teamsters was approaching her, and
Was
she
it-
just felt uncomfortable.
Okay, so she just got out.
Yeah,
Okay.
but she made a request to go to management, and
And because
The
she's
board.
running payroll for
Yes.
many groups, they
It
felt
just
it was
became a conflict, I
Right.
got you, okay.
appropriate that it would be placed into the M&A category rather than the Teamster category.
Okay.
Guess that would have changed her pension multiplier, you know? so
Yeah.
That's a,
she needs more years with, to get healthcare though,
oh,
yeah. So, she needs an additional, I mean, she'll be vested in healthcare. She needs more than in management when she went in, because it was a management position, from a Teamsters to a manager's position.
So she started off, I don't know the system, but she started off at grade 3, step 1, and she's been here for 7 years. Can she be higher than a step 5?
Traditionally, in the last, 5 or so years, all positions have stopped at 5.
Okay.
So that's the midpoint, and
Okay.
that's
So
where
she's
they are.
maxed out at that. I
And it's a
gotcha.
grade 3, and then in turn, if there's merit to her, having maybe more responsibilities,
Gotcha.
then in turn, and I think this is what was reflected, is that, again, a staff analyst over at DPW would be a grade 4, and she would be given one step above, step above that to a 6.
Okay. Gotcha.
So what's the compromise?
Barb?
Well, what's presented currently is that she's a grade 3, step 5, and that we propose that she goes to a grade 4, step 6, which is. Let's see.
I would-
Somewhere.
Yes,
2850 and 2839. I'm on the 20 chart because that's what it's going to affect.
okay.
So,
So a 5-5 would make her,
So that would be probably between a 9 and 10% increase, and that'd be going up, and each one of those would probably be about
5-5 would be a 15.5% pay raise from a 3-5,
Okay.
I believe.
Satisfied with that?
yes,
Plus,
because it should be maxed out then.
15.5% pay increase. A 3-5 to a 5-5 would be 15.5% pay increase, so,
a 5-5.
yes. But what we proposed was a 4-6, and a 5-3 was 30 somewhere, 28.50 to 28.39, 11 cents an hour difference. That's $228.80 a year, so that's.
grade 5 as step 4 would be also a possibility, if you didn't wanna go to.
What were you saying?
Grade 5, step 4. But then she would go into the other one at a grade 5, I mean, step 5,
Would she lose money on that one?
no.
A 5.4 and a 5.5?
Well, but I'm asking for, but this is a compromise.
I thought we compromised a 5.5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Five.
yeah.
This would be a little
You
bit
just said
better.
5.4
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
They went down.
and Gary, you said that's, a 5.5 is a 15.5% raise?
Yes, that's a big increase.
It's a
Like I
large
said,
increase.
the
That's
number
why I
that
think
we were,
she just threw out that
the
other
number we looked at was a 4.6, and a 5.3 would be very similar, be 11 cents an hour less, is what I'm saying. You
What
go
was
to a
the
5,
last-
you go to a 5.4, and that's, you know, that's 20, you're 88 cents an hour more there, so it's an 88 cent an
And
hour. increase.
she didn't have a raise when she went into management, so that's like 7 years.
But again, I think that's where part of the problems within the township are, is certain jobs with their level and degree of responsibilities stagnate, because there are not a lot of positions to move up to and above.
True. I would offer that as a compromise.
What's that?
A 5.5. Or a 5.4, start her out at 5.4 in 6 months.
And bring her up to 5.5?
That's just more bookkeeping for her and Bonnie to do, is all that is.
Okay,
More bookkeeping, you say?
Yeah, in 6 months, you gotta redo it again, I mean, just.
So you're at 5.5 then, no?
yeah.
Like I said, what we had looked at was a
You're
4.6.
pretty quiet over there.
Just letting it work out here.
What we looked at was a 4.6, when we sat down and made these sheets up, the compromise was a 4.6. Close to a 4.6 is a 5.3, okay? Martin proposing a 5.5, I would say my counter to that would be a 5.4 and done, that's it, 5.4. 29.38, that's what it would be, that's thinking, that's my compromise. so.
Is that,
Okay.
what is that, 15%?
No, not quite, probably about 11 or 12%, looks like.
So that's a 5.4,
5.4?
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
Do we have 20 sheets of those?
No,
Eleven
because
point
there's no
seven five,
contract
almost a 12%.
negotiated for M&A or Teamsters. So that's why there won't be one, it's based on, should be based, unless Gary made his own, based on assumed 2% room.
Okay,
Okay?
And I'm working out the 2020 chart, so, but if you go back through the numbers out to 2019 chart.
But he created his own chart, assuming there's a 2% increase, but contractually, there are no contracts that would
Okay.
state
I can make my own
2%.
chart for
I got charts,
So-
if you want them, I got charts for
Go into
2025, I just got tired of
5.4.
doing them, I just did about to 2025.
5.4.
yeah.
So those are his unofficial copies, but,
That's why I keep them and don't hand them out.
because they're not
That's fine.
negotiated.
Yeah, but it just, I mean,
That's why I have the 19.
Right, because there's not, no,
I
they've
have
been
a
approved.
19 also, but we're doing the 2020 budget, we're not doing 2019, we're doing 2020, so I'm on 2020 numbers.
Yep.
say, oh, wait a minute, you were 2% off, there's another 2% off the budget is on that number, so that's just the reason why you do it, so.
Okay, all
I've
right.
got a 2018 chart in there also.
Yep.
I have a
told Rob-
2017
I
chart.
told Rob we were running late and I'd come and get him when we were done with cable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome, Marty.
Thank you.
Cable is pretty simple.
Well, it's simple, but like I said, you have other people
Yeah.
who
So,
are in similar positions who haven't gotten anything other than their original step and grades, who have taken on responsibilities.
David.
You like that, huh?
It did, it was cracking me up. Russ had been going on and on, you see what, this insurance, and then about halfway through, he comes to the bond negotiation, this is where it gets interesting.
Well,
I was trying to say, oh my gosh.
cable's not requesting anything?
No.
I don't know, you got that, but I'm.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we're wrapping it up here.
Greetings and salutations.
Greetings.
No new capital request for 2020. Cabell Department. We'll see you later.
Well, you'll catch us up this
Now,
guy.
you can get a coffee or something on this deal, I mean, come on. Let's be reasonable, let's negotiate here. There's no cream and sugar, just black.
Pass around.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And? Got one, Bert?
What are you doing here?
Yeah, I think I got it.
Formalities.
We gotta yell at you a little.
Yeah, we
we
do.
find
You're
something
not
to
getting out
yell
of here
about.
like you're
That's all right, yeah, you can do that.
We got some issues with you.
That's all right. It wouldn't be the first. All right, well, no big surprises. We went extremely conservative with revenue from franchise fees and PEG fees, only because of the new laws and orders that are passed down by the FCC. This is an average from last year, just spread out. We saw a decline, somewhat of a decline this year, but we're still 3% above projections for 2019. So we kept it at the 2018 projections. So we're not gonna, there's no plan for increase in franchise fees or cable fees or PEG fees. That being said, the new FCC orders have come down, and we will most likely see an effect from that. And we could see as little as 1% decrease in franchise fees, as much as 20%. 20% is sky is falling for us, which isn't as bad as most communities. Most communities can see upwards to 40%.
I remember you saying that, that's double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's just the way, we use our PEG fees, that's really saving us. We'll wait and see. We won't know until the first quarter next year, when we receive fourth quarter payments for this year. Maybe the cable companies will let us know what they're doing, but they have a history of not letting you know what they're gonna do. And then, if you remember, back in 14, we audited AT&T and sued them and ended up settling. Not just us, but a number of communities, because they decided to just pull funding and cite a reason that turned out to be unfounded. So, that's a possibility, we might see a fight in 2020, but we'll wait and see. Best case scenario, 1%, worst case scenario, 20%. And in terms of dollars, what is that? 20% is probably about $2 $200,000 annually, in franchise fees that we would see taken away.
To what?
It is a lot.
Sounds like state revenue sharing.
Yeah. So, that's the only, big thing to really discuss here. I mean, my budget's pretty much, stays the same, every year, as far as expenses are concerned. The only difference is that, I have added a capital operating equipment, line there for $10,000. Usually I leave that blank, and then I end up doing a shuffling if a project comes up. But we've just upgraded the system, and we're kind of still in that process, and that could bleed into 2020. And I'm not gonna move money around, so I put the 10,000 in there. For just in
When you
case.
say upgrading that system, is that for, use for the studio, or?
Yeah, all of the above. It's studio, it's auditorium, it's broadcast system, it's everything.
Because you're aware of the broadcast systems.
It's been terrible.
People haven't been able to.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
been-
we're fully aware of that. And it's not us, it's AT&T.
What about
But Comcast didn't work last
I
night
got
either.
Comcast and
That was neither Comcast nor us. What happened was the school system had a failure, and it brought down all the systems. So, and when I contacted Jane today about that, they just put in a new UBS system, and they think the UBS system failed, which is it's a battery system for a backup. It's a backup system for a unit, and they think that failed. And when that did, when that failed, it brought down the entire system. And so it was a daisy chain effect.
Aren't you guys aware when it's gonna fail? I mean,
No.
gauges or something, just
Nope.
dies?
Nope, just dies.
It's a battery system, right?
Yeah.
Don't have a meter on the same.
Well, I'm sure it is, but
battery?
it's in a locked room with a cooling room, off in a wing of Waterford, Vermont. So you don't know until you actually get in there.
Is that a poor design? Because I'm not picking on you, but there's been I've been in a lot of calls.
A lot of complaints.
A lot of complaints that Comcast, AT&T, they can't see to watch the board meetings.
We were going through the whole garbage issue.
Everything was very
People were
important.
really trying to tune in, and there
Well,
was nothing.
Comcast, we've not had a problem with.
Well, last night you did.
Last night, we had a system failure. We didn't have a Comcast problem, we had a system failure, and that was because of a daisy chain effect. But that's not something we normally have. AT&T is another issue altogether. We've been down with AT&T since August 13th. And it's not because of what we're doing, it's because AT&T has an archaic coding system that they require us to use, which nobody supports anymore. We actually have to have Advanced Lighting and Sound create from scratch a system. So they're actually Frankensteining a system so that we could actually feed AT&T. They don't care about PEG. It's a system, it's something that they offer. They don't make any money off of it, so they're not gonna upgrade. They told us that this is it, this is the way, and it's been the same way for 25 years.
So the consumers of Waterford that have AT&T aren't gonna watch board meetings or anything else,
Not
so they're
until,
pretty much done.
not until we built this, not until we're finished building the new system for it.
I thought we already had a new system in place, we just spent.
No, that was
buku
clear,
money on
no, that's
something
just,
different?
that's something totally different. That's a broadcast system, and a broadcast system feeds two systems, one to Comcast, one to AT&T. Comcast system, they continue to upgrade and follow along with new technology. AT&T has kept the same technology for 25 years. Now, we had a system that was operating, but we've had that same system for 20 years. It's
AT&T customers aren't gonna be able to watch the board meetings.
not
Bottom line.
until we have that repaired, right?
What's it gonna take to get it repaired? Or how much is it gonna take to get it repaired?
Well, that's
When?
yet to be
So we talk about.
cost, but it's being built right now by Advanced Lighting and Sound.
Oh. Do they have
Give you a
do you have
timeline,
a
when it'll be
projected
done?
date?
It's a trial and error thing.
And I'm asking these questions so I can answer questions that people are asking me about it.
Sure, I understand that. It's a trial and error thing. We've been in with the system several times with test systems to see if we can get it going. And because it is an outdated codec system, we have to figure out a way where it operates at a technology that isn't supported anymore. Basically, what we're getting old technology and put it in with new technology and trying to get it to interface, yes. So that's what they're working on.
Do other communities that have Comcast and AT&T have the same issues that we're having, or is just, we're that unique that we have it by ourselves?
No, we have issues, everybody has issues all
Well,
the
that's what I'm
time.
asking, is there other communities that have AT&T that aren't getting their PEG channels on?
But that I don't know of. I know that everybody's had an issue with the cable provider one way or another. And they've all had to come up with solutions to meet the problems, but specifically, I don't know.
And it seems that we've had a lot of issues with the broadcast coming on, I mean, for the last year or two. I've been hearing
Well,
about board meetings.
It hasn't been a year or two. We started
It's off
having
and on.
issues, we started having issues in March. And that's when we upgraded the broadcast system, because our
Well,
broadcast system
we had
failed.
issues before March, though, too, off and on.
We didn't have blackouts like we have with AT&T. There's gonna be technical issues no matter what. It's a technical world. Technical systems fail and then you can repair them. But we hadn't had problems like we had this year before. I just think it's unfair to say that we've been having problems for 2 or 3 years, when in fact, that's not the
Well, I
case.
think before we built the system, we were having all kinds of problems. Before we spent a lot of money redoing the system, we were having issues.
Well, we spent a lot of money rebuilding the system because I
But
came
we
in and
had
rebuilt the
issues prior,
system.
that's why we rebuilt the system, because we were having big problems. Transmission coming from the township over the center over there on Scott Lake Road, we were having issues for years.
Yeah, when I came in 2014,
Yeah.
that's why we upgraded all that.
Yeah, I know that, but it seems like we still having periodic issues. I guess,
Do they?
I don't have an answer to the people that ask me, I just say I don't know what's going on with this, with the system.
Well, the answer is that we're always working on it.
Well, obviously, yeah, because everything's off.
Well, that's what I get paid for, to always work on it.
I know, it's just. we'd like
No,
to-
I'm not.
But believe
bashing
me,
you here.
believe me, I hear your frustration, I understand that, and, you know, and I hear it, but you do not even get a percentage, a small percentage of the calls that I get.
Well, I said I don't.
You know,
No, I don't,
but
but
I deal with it on
So
a
I should
daily
tell you
basis.
something, there's something's going on, if you're getting a ton of calls,
Well, I know something's going on, because that's all I do
we
every
need to
day.
correct the problem, I guess that's.
Josh
That's
mentioned
what
he
they're
was gonna
working
try.
on.
to
Working
do
on
a
it.
Facebook
We've been
Live.
working on it for years.
Josh mentioned, I don't know, like a month or two ago, he was gonna try to do a Facebook Live feed.
Yeah.
So has he done that?
We have tested that from the studio and from the truck, so we
Okay.
have that ability to do Facebook Live, and we're gonna try to implement that in auditorium as well, eventually. But it's not perfect yet, so it's not something that we're
Okay,
gonna
it's
start
just
doing
an
just yet.
alternative we could
Yeah,
offer.
but up and running before you.
It's something that we can do simultaneously. We do a broadcast, we do live on
Right,
Facebook and on YouTube, so.
Really?
Yeah,
Same night.
yep, all at the
Okay.
same time.
but that's still
Okay.
being,
Yeah, it's not perfect. We did a test run last week with the studio, with In-Town News, and it looked great on one, but, you know, it was a little janky with another, so there's a pipeline issue. There's a lot of broadband involved in that, so I'm trying to
Okay.
figure out how to make that
Okay.
work without choking the system, so to speak. But
Yeah.
that's exactly what we'd like to do over here, especially come election time, when I'm sure there'll probably be like, you know, debates or something like that, something
Right.
we'd wanna make interactive.
and there just be like an alternative we could offer people that are complaining.
And, yeah, and currently, there is an alternative, people can stream stream the meetings on the
Can they
computer.
live stream
Yes,
it?
yes, and even
Okay.
on their phones.
Oh,
So that was part of the
I
whole.
didn't know they could live stream it, I thought you could download after it
No,
was
yeah,
done.
you can live stream it too, it's part of the whole.
Computer and your.
Computer, on your phone, on your tablets,
Okay.
it was part of the system upgrade that we did this year.
Good work.
Okay, well, that's a good recommendation, okay.
Will people be able to watch the board meeting last night? It was recorded, will you be putting it on?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's already on the schedule,
Is it okay?
yeah, it'll be on demand, it's a big file, so it'll be on demand
Okay.
probably tomorrow, it's still processing.
Okay.
So, yeah, all meetings are recorded, all meetings are rebroadcast, until the next meeting.
Okay, for
Yeah.
2 weeks after it, okay.
Yep.
Okay, didn't mean to beat you up so early.
No, you gotta do something.
Well, I mean, just a little frustration, you know, just, And I go home and I have to hear my wife complaining.
Oh, now we're getting down to the meat of it. Now we're getting down to the meat of it.
That's a
there.
connection.
She took her frustration on me, I gotta take it out on you,
I'm
Gary.
glad my wife comes to the board.
See, I don't want mine coming, cause she'll get up and start yelling and.
Believe me, and I understand the frustration, but believe me, nobody's as frustrated as I am, okay? Trust me on that. I mean, every time you think you got, you know, you head off at one area, another part of the river breaks free and shoots off another way. It's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of moving
That
parts.
stuff's way over
And-
my head, I
and-
don't even understand half the things you told me.
And if it was all just dependent on us, believe me, it would be taken care of in a snap. But we
Yeah.
are dependent on several entities to get this one machine to operate. Unfortunately, when it comes to the cable broadcast, we're slaves to the cable companies.
Yeah, I
Thankfully,
understand
Comcast likes to keep up with technology and likes to, so far, provide, a venue for our channels and give us the best possible quality. AT&T's always been like that. They're just like, whatever, man. When we're dealing with a 25-year-old coding system, and that's not fun. It's like trying to do the Indianapolis 500 in a stagecoach.
You say AT&T said whatever, are they, if people that have AT&T wanna watch a movie, they having problems with regular shows?
I have.
Well, that's
Do you have it?
completely
Well,
different.
I know it's completely
AT&T
different.
makes money off of those. They don't make
Oh, I
any
see,
money
okay.
off us.
So they're,
Okay,
Yeah.
two different
In fact, they
pieces.
pay
Okay.
us.
yeah, they gotta pay Peg.
Right, they pay
Yeah.
PEG fees and they provide those channels for free.
Okay.
Actually, it costs them. And so,
So
That's
basically,
why they don't upgrade right there.
exactly,
Self-explanatory.
exactly. The entire world has moved on to HD. PEG,
So
nope.
what?
You're
I
right.
say, okay.
So what?
Yeah, they don't want, you don't care about HD, we wanna start throwing money their way, I'm sure they'll give us all the HD we want. The funny thing is that it takes nothing to do that, and they still don't. They still don't. And, and that's the reason why the FCC orders have come down and everything, that, they're fighting to get rid of all this.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I,
AT&T is,
the,
or
the,
the cable,
The whole cable.
the
the whole cable
entire,
industry?
yeah, industry, they're fighting to get rid of this. This is the end goal, to get rid of PEG and franchise, and so they can just do whatever they want. in
That's the deal
communities.
from come into the communities to pay the franchise fee.
That's why wireless
PEG.
is coming in. The only reason why they pay franchise fees is because they run cable in our right of ways. When they start doing wireless, they don't
Yeah.
have to do that anymore, and they'll stop paying franchise
Oh,
fees.
wow, really?
So, and I said this in a department head meeting before, this office, worst case scenario won't be around in 5 years, best case scenario 10 years,
Really?
yeah.
This office or this office building?
Maybe the office building, I don't know.
Thank you for
My
being-
office.
Thank you for being specific.
Yeah, my office, a cable, there will be no need for a cable.
I wonder where I should pay my
Well,
property.
we're looking for a supervisor in F&O.
If they're still open in
Police
5 years, I'll look it up,
officers
so. But I mean, and that's just the reality of it. We see PEG fees, and franchise fees go down every year. We budget accordingly, but, the truth is we still see declines
Yeah.
annually. Since 2014, it's gone down roughly about 25% since I've been here, so. That's a lot of moolah.
Wow, 25%.
Their contracts, their franchise agreements are up in 2024, and we'll see what happens then.
It's a ways away, but it's not. So
Yes.
Right.
it's-
It'll be upon us like that. We're lucky enough to have a cable fund, so that we're able to do these things and not, wring our hands every year and wonder if we're gonna get enough PEG fees to do this. We have enough in the kitty to meet these problems head on, and like I tell Advanced Lighting and Sound, it's a weird relationship. They're always trying to look for the best cost-saving deal for me, and then we eventually get to the point where I go, listen, man, I got the money. Just tell me how to fix it, and we'll spend the money, because it's not doing any good just sitting in the fund, so. So I hope to have an answer with our Frankenstein machine this week when it comes to AT&T. We got we call them the twins, a couple guys at ALS that are, they really are very bright engineers. They've been working on it for the last couple of weeks. So I hope to have something by the end of this week, at least an answer of when we can install and go. They'll run some trial tests and everything like that, but, we'll get it up. We'll get it up and we'll get it going. I've talked to the school today about, last night's issue with their system breaking down everybody's system. I requested that we put in a fail-safe over there on the school's dime to see, because we can't have them, pulling down all the systems. If their system goes down, okay, fine, but it pulled down everybody's system. So, their IT department right now is working on a fail-safe for that, keep that from happening. And that's it. I mean, that's all we can do. Another thing that we're doing, I'm having the IT department here put a phone in down in the operating room. And then during meetings, we'll have 2 people on staff working. We'll have somebody in the operating room, and we'll have somebody at the studio stand by at the phone if there's a problem. Boom, they can call. So that's our fail-safe. That's not a permanent solution. That is a temporary solution that Josh and I talked about last night. It's unsatisfactory to me, so because I'd rather have a fail-safe within the control room that's taking care of the issue rather than having people on the phones. That's time.
Yeah.
And so, but those are the measures we're putting in place right now until we have the necessary technological fail-safes put in place. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for not requesting no more money.
Yes.
That brings me to page 2.
We'll see you.
Time's up.
Yeah, time's up.
I should point out, if you look at the sheet, you'll see that there is almost about 34,000 deficit for next year.
Yes.
And that is because we took a conservative stance with our revenue, and that is workable because of our cable fund. If we did that for the next 20 years, we still wouldn't run our money.
Right,
So,
gotcha.
But there is a word of caution in the general fund budget. The fees that he's talking about, there is a portion that goes into the general fund budget. So as things impact his department overall, the general fund will see a decrease in revenue.
yeah.
And so that's the wraparound from his department itself to the general fund
So
also.
part of the PEG fees goes to him and the
Well,
general fund?
Yeah, so he
PEG
has
fees
his own thing.
go to my department only, but I take 11% of the franchise fees. And 89% goes to the general fund,
Really?
yes.
Yes,
Wow.
which
Which
is
is roughly
what?
about 1.2
Page 2.
That's roughly what, 1.2 million, 1.1?
1.1 million.
1.1 million right now. Yeah.
So just be aware as his discussions and what's happening there.
So if we saw a 20% decrease, I mean, we're looking at about $800,000 then annually.
So then in turn, you would have less revenue and have to make up that gap.
All right.
So,
Sounds like it's.
Say page 2.
Yeah, page 2.
And that is coming.
67407.
Well, I know that is coming.
right,
No way around it.
there's no way around it, it's the change of, it's the nature of the visa, it's the change, but in turn, that's the impact of the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now they're setting up different. But again, you do have fund balance in and of itself for running your operations.
Correct, and then we're also doing something at the studio end to supplement the income. So, at least getting that going a bit, so that when it comes to that point, 5 years from now, it can be an easy transition on the studio side.
Almost $11,000 more.
People losing their shirt over on that side. Here, it would just, 5 years worst case scenario, up to 10 years. That's probably a better scenario, but yes, those franchise fees will decrease they will decrease. And we'll see a little bit of that probably next year. 5 years, it will be a bit more dramatic.
Call your US rep in this case, right? Not your state rep.
Yes, call your US rep. I met with
Washington DC, not
Representative Haley 2 weeks ago to discuss this. She's fully aware and understands, and I told her, I said, I need a bulldog who's not only willing to bark, but can bite.
Probably understands, but her hands are gonna be tied just like the rest of them.
Yeah, it's true, but you know, somebody needs to be a thorn in the side of the FCC over there.
I wish
Somebody
you
does.
would.
And I get it,
Watch your
you
head.
know, the cable providers are running a business. They have stockholders, they wanna do all that. But just as the state brags about balancing the budget, they forget to mention that they balanced it on the back of communities.
Sure they do.
No, forget it, they don't.
That's
Just
right,
not
state
saying it.
revenue sharing on that one.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the FCC, you know, they're gonna brag about, you know, the headway they're making in technological advancements in communities and everything, but it'll be on our backs. It'll be on our backs.
It's always been somebody else's dime.
Always.
Put on there.
Always,
And then we look, and guess what? Nobody beyond us.
yeah. Yeah, this is the last line of defense here.
Yep.
Somebody's gotta pay.
But, all right, that's
Okay.
really it.
Okay.
Okay, Gary, thank you.
Okay, so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, one more, huh? Don't look like we're getting out of 4:35 today.
That's the 5 elected for overtime, so
And
full-time
you
elected,
like that? Oh, the full-time?
which would be a normal
Hey,
thing for.
look at this, we'll miss the rush hour traffic.
I am always here.
I have
If it was
that
next
last
week,
month,
we
I
had
think.
daylight savings. If it was next week, daylight savings, then it'd be over.
Yeah,
You should
I
work on
have
Saturday.
the last 7 years.
What's that, Barb?
I said, and you get to show
Hello?
up on
Hello?
Saturday.
Yes, I do.
So you doing, Rob? Good. You a solo act?
Come. All right,
Yes, sir.
remember, it's
Okay.
for each,
Rob can handle it by himself.
just one
Come
Saturday,
for
but
it.
it's a full out 8
We
hours.
have to work 8 hours the weekend before every election.
Yeah.
8 hours the weekend before every election. That's the requirement.
That's this Saturday, isn't it? The
Yes, it is.
second.
We will be open from 8 to 4.
And then it will be time change, so
Is that what it is, 8 hours?
Yes.
full 8 hours, yeah.
Mhm.
Straight 8.
Straight 8, yes, it is.
Could have been in with a cucumber.
Seems different.
We're on a day,
Yeah.
I know.
Yes.
What's that?
The room, the setup.
It's 'cause
Colors,
it's-
yeah.
This is
Tables
usually
of
like
the
the,
dial, yeah.
and then the TV's
Smile,
down there, so
you're
it's
on
easier.
candid
Even though we're
camera.
not using.
Hey,
it.
when is least expected?
We can entertain.
Must be the last one.
Yes.
Yes,
You're
it was.
closing.
Yes, we're slap happy now.
Rob wins the awardees all throughout this budget, so we're flipping all over the place. Page 16 is developmental services.
Running with the big sheet first?
We can do that, whatever you call it.
Ross, we're just starting out on the big sheet, let's finish up with the big sheet.
Let's do it.
Big,
Let's do that.
really big.
Okay.
Good sheet.
Yep. So, developmental services. So, there we go. Rob was trying to, he's been hit with a lot of, with the economy and the building, everything's going on, trying to keep up with, all the requests and all the staffing constraints that he has. There was a request for a full-time mechanical inspector, and then there was another solution brought forward with a temporary mechanical inspector. That was the one that the supervisor recommended at this point, based on just feasibility financially. Not that the first one is a bad idea, but I preferred, but just a little bit more cost effective, so that was a yes. Costs with board ups, cleanups, basically we have that in the budget, that's already in the general fund lines. Increase, okay, this is for training, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Certification, MMR being reimbursed, so for some certification and training, and that was approved, or recommended, I guess, at this point. Some requests for vehicles, pickups in particular. We had a question mark there, maybe a little bit discussion on, do they need to be a pickup, or would an SUV be as good, or, so it's kind of an open question to go back and hit. There's a township drain condition assessment study that is already coded in the improvement revolving fund. We hit that with the board already, but we'll go through it with you too when we get to the improvement revolving fund. Master plan, that's a yes as well, to update that. The tri-party, that's a to be determined. That's just a discussion about the funds that are held, Waterford's funds that are held at the county for some tri-party work. There's one in 2020, 2021 that the township has committed to with the county Walton Boulevard project. Federal funds too on that one. So some discussion about any other activities or projects too. We can have that discussion here today too. So by and large, that's what's going on with the request that came forward there. And also, just to kind of draw your attention to it, on page 1 of the general fund revenues, Rob helps us with these, and for all the different permits and the different fees that they collect through his office, he budgets for those, and we review those through the years. He does a good job on that. He keeps them conservative enough that we haven't had to like go back and change them or alter them. So if anything, we come in a little to the good at the end of the year. It allows us to pivot and do some other things with those funds. So that's good. But just to let you know that that's there. He's administering that, helping us keep track of that. I don't think there's anything that's too crazy there. I was gonna go to improvement revolving fund again. I'm gonna keep going back to my Rob has turned yet. Awesome. So the 246 fund. Page 38. 39. And it's big sheet too if you the township wide. Rob, just to let you know, what we have going on here. Yeah, we talked about the study for the township drains is going on. And also, we put some money in there to actually like, say, you were joking earlier, if we found a problem with one, you said you already knew about one, so it's not like that's gonna be safeguarding, so there's already one to have somebody address and go out and fix, and so we have some funds set aside on that. And street lights, that I already mentioned that Scott is helping out with that now, as far as works with all those. Dan had kind of, we left the township and kind of shuffled that this way over to Township Hall, and Rob and Scott will be helping us with that. Rolling out the streetlight program into the neighborhoods, so we have an identified project for that. And then pedestrian pathway, kicking up the township's contribution to $75,000. The northern part of the Boulevard connector, $365,000. That's with engineering and adding a sidewalk too next to the middle school. for safety, for help the kids navigate around that. Riverwalk North Connector, that's approved, or recommended, I should say. And then here's the one I wanted you to talk about with the board too. I think this would roll into your department a little bit more. A $75,000 recommendation for neighborhood roads. Should a neighborhood approach the township and get the signatures to do the SAD process, the township could contribute or would have budgeted $75,000. Whether you guys wanted to come up with a percentage or not to exceed that amount, or I don't know what makes sense, or if there's some pamphlets, if we want to do any mailings to people, or put something in the water bills, or.
That's part of the mailings, everything would be part of the 75.
But we have some miscellaneous funds too, in there too, because there's always things like that that come up, so. It's actually, get a pretty good deal advertising that way, if you go black and white, you don't have to pay for postage or anything, so it's not too bad.
The water
That's
bills are the most.
cost,
Yes.
pretty good way to get the word out.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
That and with social media,
Right.
Facebook, and
Cable channel.
what we have available, I think, I think we'd be able to get the word out. I think it's also probably a wise idea to come up with a percentage for the cap.
Yes, the process of some sort.
Yeah, if we just left it without the cap, then it's the potential to spend
One group
all
might
of
be
it.
able to, yeah.
First group.
Yeah, and you don't really spread the love throughout the township, so I think that's probably the best approach, is to come up with a percentage and not to exceed the limit on contribution.
Do you want to maybe, this is just an idea, list a couple of board members, or if there's volunteers to like get with Rob to work on some of that, Gary, or is that something you wanna be involved with, or develop a marketing materials or a policy or a, just an idea, I don't. Did Warren have something like this that they used, a matching program?
Independence
Does,
does.
yes.
Do they?
What do you think about that, Rob? I mean,
To get this kind of jump started?
No, I think that's a good idea. I can come up with some ideas, maybe look at some of the neighboring communities or other communities that I'm aware of that had this program or still have this program. Steal some of their policy,
Yeah,
and
you want
then,
it? Okay.
use the committee as a sounding board to come up with the policy that we want to move forward with.
okay,
Yeah.
sure, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, there's that.
Then it's like 10% and then.
Probably that's where
They
you're
had
gonna
like
start.
maybe a
somewhere.
max of 50,000 or something, I don't know.
First come, first served.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
It's like, what's the average, 10, 12,000 per household?
The last that we went through, that's what was being quoted.
It'd be like, you could make it, it would offset it by one household.
Yeah.
It's not a big chunk of money.
now when you start looking at roads.
No.
But if you leave it in there for a few years and let it build up, then if you don't touch it for a year or two, you put 75,000 in, 3 or 4 years, you got $250,000.
But then again, we don't have a fund in which to, you would almost have to increase your budget each year by the amount that you
Yeah,
haven't
you're right,
spent.
I understand.
Spent, you know,
Just an allocation.
so it's kind of like an allocation, and you can earmark for groups that have already
It's
signed up.
still gonna depend on buy-in from the neighborhoods. and-
Right.
Well, yeah, that's-
Sure.
But like I said, if
yeah.
somebody steps forward, you can at least
Yeah.
have something,
We
but
can have everything set up and it looks good, but
But the neighbors are
if the
gonna say,
neighbors
no,
don't
I'm
sign a
not paying it,
petition,
right?
then,
Yeah, that's the whole thing right there. And again, like I said, you've got a lot of senior citizens in neighborhoods that are on fixed income.
Absolutely.
They take on that added expense to fix roads, they just can't do it, it doesn't work. But again, every year you wait, the cost goes
It
up.
gets worse
So
and
that's the flip side of the coin, and those are facts. But the bottom line is that people don't have the money, no matter how many years you wait, they still aren't gonna
Yeah,
have it.
it's too bad road commission wouldn't partner up with us and something like this, we throw in 75, they throw in 75, and
Should be a
it's their roads, for
priority.
God's sake, not our roads.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? It just, I
Yeah,
think we
but-
need to really
But some
talk to them.
roads are.
You look at the 21 townships in Oakland County, and they're dealing with all the townships, and that becomes an
Oh,
enormous
absolutely.
expense for them, but again, it's a wash, it's, you know, as far as that money coming in, but it's, so we can talk to independents, because they've done that thing with their motor carrier, the funding from the motor carrier tickets they've got, they've used that as an incentive to give to the
do that,
people.
yeah.
But I
Seen
don't
something
know,
like this, yeah.
I don't know how it's going. I just, I know recently that, they had the millage, the 4 years was it they got, for
Yes.
4 years? They have the millage for repaving roads, and I think the very first one that come in was like $200,000 over what the original price was. And the very first one, they were like $280,000 over or something. And holy cow! In a year's time, that cost went up that much, so somewhere something wasn't evaluated correctly, so. And the bad thing about our subdivision streets, and most of them, there'll be no mill and cap, they're gonna be, you know.
Oh, terrible.
They're gonna be
Yeah.
reconstructed.
Yeah, it's all replaced, and it's gonna be top dollar, so.
There hasn't been really too many projects in the last few years of neighborhoods doing this.
No, there
I
hasn't.
mean, the last one was that motorway, and that was a big fiasco over there.
They didn't,
But I can't-
well, the one before that was up behind Waterford, the lakes, they had it, but then they had that one court.
Right.
That the only way you get that court was to come in on those two streets.
And the people didn't want
They didn't
to,
wanna do it, so they said, heck with it, we're not gonna do
I
it.
say, I can't recall any neighborhoods that have done that in recent times.
I think 2004 was the last
204,
one
okay, yeah, it's been a while.
that went through, and I believe that was Lapham.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That-
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes,
15
that's
years.
probably just about ready to be done again.
They come,
But I just,
they're done paying now. It's
Yeah.
So it's a concept that people have talked about, I know that more than one trustee, full or part-time, have touched on that fact that they think that's a good idea, is to have a little bit of something.
Seed,
So the
yep.
seed money,
Yep.
it's a start.
It's an incentive.
It
Yeah.
is, yes.
And like, anytime somebody's gonna give you something, you know, you're gonna get somebody to think, well, yeah, I said, hey, look at it this way. I said, there's, you know, 75 houses on the street, so it's $1,000 a piece. We're getting, you know, each $1,000 off what our bill's gonna be.
Right.
And that's $1,000 we won't be paying 6% interest on, so, hey, why not? You know, just,
It's an incentive, actually, absolutely.
so there are different ways to look at it, and you can keep it positive, or you take the flip the coin, there's tails, yeah, but what about the balance, I gotta pay all the rest of it, so. But it's still $1,000 you have to pay in,
Yeah,
so.
rather than nothing.
Okay, page 18. This guy here. Community promotions. That top one, you know, part of what that pays for is the business recognition breakfast, I believe. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong. Part of what comes out of there. Youth assistance, we increased, it's recommended to increase that by $750. There was a point, years back when that was, I wanna say that was 15,000 that the
Yeah.
township gave them,
So
so.
it was.
Yeah, it was.
It's something, trying to eke
All
kind
right,
of back.
I gotta tell you, for being on the youth system, thank you. You know, they're not expecting an increase.
No, I didn't mention that.
They were hoping to get the 7,500 again this year.
So,
Right, they also needed a couple new office chairs, and I don't know if we were able to find old ones for them, so they might have,
No, they got budgeted to buy 3. They bought 3.
they did buy 3.
I got them.
And their fiscal
They
year
got
does
them
run from,
delivered, they're all set. They're there
oh, cool,
already.
so now they can, you know, their fiscal year starts in June, or July 1st to June 30th because of the school year, and our fiscal, so we kind of have a differing timeframe.
Go ahead.
we got the recycling program and the environmental projects. I know the water sewer kicks in on that, that is for,
I think no has.
no has, thank you.
Yeah.
I always forget that program, looking at,
And I think there's a couple other little things in there too.
but Stacy helps to administer that.
The senior center transit, Kim and I are still trying to get, I'm gonna call them real numbers pinned down, because she went to another meeting the other day, I couldn't make it, her now, so I had to come back, and she lost her mind in a very professional bit when the email saying, look, this is like, these numbers are, and then what she was said at the meeting, the numbers she wrote down and what got emailed over later in the day, again, weren't the same numbers, and the way that, I did percentages of some numbers, and they jump around from, 10% to 100% back and forth for Waterford Township, and what we were originally told, so we're trying to still get a final number on what that senior transportation is gonna be, and we're trying to look at this as a January 1 startup, because the first half of the year, we will have made the contributions to the school district, but the last half of the year, they'll stay in our program, because they said, the school district said they've got, for this, I said school district senior center, they got rides scheduled to 7:30, or for to 12:30, 2019, so right up to New Year's Eve, they got rides scheduled, so we're trying to get these numbers pinned down so we can come with a solid number. But it is,
Well,
significant.
I'm thinking it's 185,000 less the CDBG one.
That's what,
But that's what my thinking is, they're wanting us to also kick in the CDBG money, and I don't
what
think that's right.
what they're showing is, 185 for the three big communities, and then
The smart credits.
the village of Walled Lake is less, because they're a smaller community, but then they have smart credits, we have smart credits, and we have CDBG, and they don't, but they want us to throw the CDBG money in too as a credit, and then 185, so now we're up to 324,000. And what was originally proposed is gonna be an equal share by all communities involved, which was 8 at the time, now we're down to 4.
Right.
And for 2 years, and then at the end of 2 years, we'll reevaluate, figure would be a full, full rider counts for all the communities and what it's gonna be, and then we'll distribute the funding accordingly, depending on what the amount of rides are per community, so. But Commerce was the most recent one to drop out, so now we're down to 4, so, but again, and it's still gonna be less than what we could do, having dispatch and maintenance and all that stuff on our own dime, but at the same time, the numbers are significant, so then it's not what it started out at.
And I would
got
think
the
our
first chart.
CDBG, there would be laws governing us
That's right.
against using it out of area.
What's
We
that?
couldn't contribute. I think that the way that the CBD laws are
What we
written,
have to, what
You
we have to
couldn't
show
contribute.
is that our residents,
right,
Use it, our residents
The
use
same
it.
for us.
right,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying, my response would be, we can't give it to the group, because
Right.
that's been designated to Waterford.
right,
So we,
it's,
Oh,
an
yeah, no, I
interesting-
see.
It's
No,
an
it is,
interesting
yeah.
proposal, but it
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
happen.
good point.
Right,
Yeah,
right, good point.
So what are the communities, Waterford, White Lake,
Highland,
Island?
and I'm gonna say village or city of Walled Lake.
Walled Lake.
Village of Walled Lake, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's either the village of Walled Lake or the city of the
I think
village of
it's-
Walled Lake, I just,
City, White Lake, and then Highland.
yes.
And then who is proposing to house the functions?
Highland.
So it's Highland.
Yep.
Although we're going to have to probably keep our buses here somewhere.
And so those are very large points to talk about, because it's operational. Where, why, who's doing it, who's our staffing, is it just going to be, is there a
Well-
place at, water and sewer and F&O for these things to be charged? And who's responsible for maintaining? Is it all going to White Lake, or is it?
It will be a WODA, it will become WODA.
West Oakland Transportation Authority.
Right, but in
So-
turn, if they don't have facilities, then they're using, just like.
Well, they wanna
Yeah.
keep the buses that we currently have here, because
Right.
it would not make sense to keep them out there and then always send them every morning this way, right? So you would wanna keep the buses here to service the Waterford Township people. They will have some type of lockbox, is what I'm hearing, that the drivers go in every morning and then they can start their buses up from here. There would be hopefully some type of computer communication system where it lets them know where they go every day.
Yeah, they're talking like laptops and then phones for the drivers. I mean, that
iPads.
stuff is all been, iPads, all been factored in, the cost has been factored in.
Okay.
But they haven't hired the drivers, they haven't hired the dispatchers.
Our drivers
No,
will be
but
able
in
to
turn, those are the
apply.
details that
Right.
we're looking to see what's happening.
But it's, the cost factors have all been factored in. But it just as far as having the actual physical bodies, no, we don't have that yet.
Oh, I was talking about physically having, if we're supposed to be housing, then in turn, that's a topic of, is there space available and where would that be, kind of things on our level.
Right,
But
I'm
this-
thinking that we would need some space if they're not gonna be housed over there off of Pontiac Lake Road.
Right.
The buses, if they have to be, they would have to have a space over here.
Right.
So then in turn, yeah, I hadn't thought
For
of
the
it as an
buses.
option if
Right.
the school district was willing to allow them to be housed over there still.
Right, and if not, like you said, that's something we have to look for someplace here on the site.
So currently, they're looking for our smart credits, combination of 185,000, which would include our smart credits,
No, 185,000 plus the smart credits.
Smart credit.
plus CDBG, yes, that is a different topic, because I
Yes.
think we
So-
had put smart credits, our contribution, and CDBG to get up to
So when I left
closer
the
to-
meeting the last I knew, it was to be a total of 185,000 and smart credits for all of the communities. They would contribute 185,000 plus our smart credits. So we were planning to take our CDBG money of 50,000 or whatever it is and reduce the 185 down to like 135.
130.
Yeah, 130. So, and I see that we only have 75 here, so we are,
Because we were including the smart credits.
Correct.
Smart credits
Right.
plus the 75 plus CDBG
right,
got
but
us to
we've
the
had communities drop out.
185.
We don't wanna fund it to fail, so.
No, but in turn, this becomes a very large topic for tomorrow when you wrap up things and say, where are we going to, if this is a choice to move forward with it, where's the
money's
funding
gonna
coming
come
from? That's
It's a
part of these things.
$55,000 difference right there.
Right, it is a $55,000 problem, $50,000 problem.
But when, do they have another, what's the next water meeting? End of the month?
November 21st.
November 21st, right in the middle of firearms deer season, brilliant timing, okay.
But in turn, I mean, you have to have, you know,
At
it's
8:30
like,
a.m.
Are any of the other communities using CDBG money?
No, they don't have it.
No, they don't have it.
I don't have it. So I said that's what's unique to us.
That's why I was
When you
fuming.
read that, that's valid right there, it's just like I said, it can't.
It's not right.
but in turn, it can go, I mean, it wasn't there as of 2 years ago, you know?
But I mean,
And it can go away, and I guess that's a concern if they're factoring it in.
the initial chart that we have of what it was originally proposed, again, it was 8 communities, but
No,
just
no, I see
what
what
the
they're doing,
funding,
they're
but
doing
just
creative
the
accounting.
change
but
of
it
wages
can't work,
and
so.
just, at one time, the director was gonna make more money than all the other township supervisors made, and then that went back down to a more
Oh my
realistic
gosh.
number, and just,
She's still putting in an extra 10 grand for
I saw
taking
that.
on water.
the other day, you told me that it went up.
And you, yeah.
So I went back and compared.
So
it
I
to the-
highlighted all the items that I want the detail on, and I haven't received that detail yet.
Kim was nice, and she
So-
was professional, but she was stern and to the point, like,
You're
Math
kind
is
of getting,
boring.
that's why I kind of wanted a little bit more discussion, just because, again, it's kind of like trying to figure it out. And I know you and Allison have both, you know, attended a lot of meetings on behalf of
Yes,
this
we have.
topic, you know, and
and by the way, column number 1 is $1 off too.
Okay, thank you, dear.
You always start in
This
the
is
ones
paper.
column, you add them up, and it's off $1 right there. I didn't add the rest of the numbers, and I know it's $1 off, so.
so then what are our other topics? Any other ones? We'll circle back to
Sure.
this one,
Rob,
maybe
take
take
it away.
Did the revenues, just to listen to Rob's update on his department. Unless you're good with just the way things sit in here.
Decent on
I
the,
don't think, he's seen the yeses and nos, so.
yeah, we went through that, right?
So no, we
Yeah.
didn't, yeah.
I think we would still want to pursue pickups. For replacement
Pickup
trucks, yeah.
Okay.
That would be the only thing that
No.
Pickups rather than SUVs?
Yeah.
Okay. I just think it, for throwing stuff back in or whatever it is, especially, you know, getting in and out.
Right.
Job sites with muddy job sites and stuff, the inspectors, and it's just.
Yeah, we have a listing of all the vehicles here, so we had those there.
Yeah.
We just wanted to double check on that.
Yeah, I didn't have any, I kind of expected the staffing that direction, that was what would be preferred, so I anticipated that, and that's not a problem.
The drain study, is that likely gonna be,
I'd like to go out for bid. Yeah, probably the active part of it would be 2020, but I'd like to go out for bid. If not before the end of the year, right in January, so we get someone lined up as soon as weather permits. They
Who
can
will
go
we
out.
look at for that?
An engineering consulting firm.
Okay.
They're gonna have the capability of going out and surveying and evaluating storm drains, structures, culverts, that type of thing, so I think that we would target 4 or 5 of the local consultants.
okay. We have, it's a recurring theme too, we bumped up out of the improvement revolving fund, the sidewalk, money to 75,000. Rob had a study done a few years back, recommended 300,000 a year to get us to where we need to be, basically, no major deficiencies in, was it 20 years or 10 or, I can't remember.
I think it was a 10-year, yeah, and that was just taking care of the facilities that we have, the path that we have. That's not looking at any new length or getting creative and.
Right.
So that's just taking care of the non-motorized path that we have right now. It would take that much money per year for 10 years just to address that.
And that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago when the study was done. Right.
And so they're 2 years worse than what they were.
Yeah.
But we have replaced, in 2 years' time, we have replaced several thousand feet, for the sidewalks. But that's, like I said, that's a Band-Aid and something that needs extensive surgery, so.
Yes.
right.
Never popular, but I always like to throw this one out, so bear with me.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna
Why
do it.
why did he look at you when he wanted to throw something?
I said, don't do it. I know you're gonna say. Fastball.
So whenever you have a set of assets, it's always nice to have a fixed revenue stream dedicated to those, to maintain those, and it just works better, it's fluid, you can only use it on that. As far as when the phone booth, I mean, that would be what would fix it, because that's on the Riverwalk path, and they would fix it with the revenue stream. It'd be a new fund and dedicated revenue stream. Works great in Independence Township, but you know what? It'd be asking people for more money, and that's never fun.
Well, we had it going here for years, they quit in the 80s, wasn't it, Gary?
What is it?
The mill.
What a
86.
what a mistake.
76, 86,
They never-
no, they never put it
They
back
never
on the ballot.
renewed it or put it back on the ballot.
It goes bad. You don't think about like a sidewalk going bad, but they go bad. They have a useful life too, and
Just entertain me a little bit, if, say we put something on the ballot, what would it cost the average homeowner per year?
Well, looking at what they had, we have like 31,000 parcels in Waterford Township, you know, to just go back retroactive to 1976. $10 per parcel. Fast forward to that had never gone away, that would have generated $13,330,000.
Our sidewalks will be pristine.
Because
Oh, boy, we had
basically,
brick pavers in
what you
there.
look at, you do the sidewalks and say like, he said it's a 10-year program, so say like the 10-year program, you get it done, and concrete's maximum lifespan is 25 years, that's maximum, but you know with roots, you know with water taps, sewer
Yeah.
taps, other things that go on, there's sections, but again, so just say, so you get a 5-year reprieve and then you start, and then you go through the whole township and you completely redo all the sidewalks again, then there's a 5-year reprieve, and then you go, it's infinity, it never ends, it never goes away, so.
you'd purchase a machine that grinds down the imperfections. You'd have a staffer dedicated,
Oh,
through
okay.
clearing the brush out on the Riverwalk, making it usable and stuff like that.
But ideally, if you put rebar in the concrete, it moves together, it doesn't offset like that, you put the expansion cuts in, but the rebar is continuous, and it goes up and comes down, it moves, but
Oh,
you
really?
get,
Okay.
well, you get frost, and again, as soon as you put that cut in, that creates a crack point in the concrete. When it heats, one side goes up and one stays down, whatever the situation might be, it just, but you put rebar in it, it just, that's an added expense, but it restricts the movement of it and creates longevity,
It's
creates
an added
longevity.
expense, but it's a little more insurance that
It
it's
is.
gonna last a little
It
longer.
is, yeah.
You look at life cycle costs on that, then your life cycle costs with doing a little bit more upfront.
$12 is.
About $12.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm not saying no, not put it on there, I know you're looking
It's
at
just
me,
an-
but.
it's just
but
an idea. It's an
It's
asset
something
that
for
we
us to
own.
really discuss, because that would, well, that would relieve our pain, you know, of putting money into this project, and we could be doing the whole township.
Probably running under the DPW, you'd have a fund there, another page
And
or
it's an
two.
interesting thought, and something I think we need to discuss in the next couple of months.
And replacement would all be contracted, it won't be done in-house. It'd be
Yeah, sure,
contracted
yeah.
replacement. But again, it was in the 70s when they started every subdivision, every development in Waterford Township that had curb, gutters, storm sewers, sidewalks, all that stuff in it, paved roads. It just, you know, some of the subs had ordinances where it had to be concrete driveways, you couldn't put asphalt underneath it, so. But again, those sidewalks all went in, and now they're going bad. You know, I said, well, now they're going bad, they're horrible. I mean, I've seen sidewalks that have been heaved up probably a foot from where these tree rods. But then when you go in these developments, you do developments, and all the way down, you've got your curb, you got your sidewalks, and right down the easements, they would plant 3 trees on every lot.
Yeah.
And those tree roots going down into the storm drains, they heave up the curb, they heave up the sidewalks, but every development had, and it just, why do you make it grass? Don't put trees out there. And then they grow over the sidewalks, and people gotta duck under them, and you gotta maintain them. Grass, you got no roots heaving up
It's
anything.
good for a couple of years, then they're a
But
pain in the rear.
when they get big, and,
Yeah.
and a lot of times they're maples, and maples have running roots that run right into the earth. They don't go down, they go across, and they heave, and it's just, it just doesn't work.
Well, we're seeing it in the township, I mean,
I've seen it every
We see it all
municipality I
over.
worked in, the developments ran.
yeah, I'm sure you did.
Trees out in the easements, and just, then you go through there 40 years later, and the curbs are tipped out, or they're heaved up, or they're crumbled up, and you look in the storm drains, and it looks like a spider web down there, there's so many roots in them, and it's a mess, it's just a mess.
It's a risk management item too for us. We own them. We're responsible for them.
Sure.
So,
Well, we've had lawsuits, I mean, over the years, I
Well, they're,
know we've talked about them before, and we've put it out on some of them. And lucky it hasn't cost us a whole lot of money.
2 inches is the standard. Less than 2 inches is
No, I know.
governmental immunity, but
What's that? Did you say?
if the difference in the
Oh.
concrete's less than 2 inches, we have governmental immunity, otherwise we have an obligation to.
If it's less or more.
If it's less, we have the immunity, if it's more, we have the obligation, especially if we've been notified, if somebody's called the DPW to let them know that there's.
Remember we had the
sidewalks.
one guy came to the board meeting and asked, he goes, look, the sidewalk in front of my house is horrible, do I have permission to tear it out and replace it, and get me a new driveway? Remember, and he replaced it all the way across the front of his yard, and, I mean, that's a unique situation, but it just, yeah, it was, you know, heck yes, have at it.
Yeah, Jim Ahern did the same thing over his place,
Yep.
over in Essex Court, he just tore it up, he goes, is it illegal? I go, I think so. You know, just do it on the weekend, I don't know, we'll put a new sidewalk in there, and he did.
But again, just like I said, it's just, and you have people that, they
It
can
cost about
afford,
$3,000
they
too,
can
I think.
afford to do that, you know.
But he paid for it out of his pocket because he wanted to look nice, so that's
I'd be
a
honest,
rarity.
I've been out of construction long, I don't know what sidewalks are for running foot anymore, I used to know, but that, you know. they
They're
don't
cheap.
know, but, you know,
When we did a sidewalk program in Warren, they were paying $70 a flag.
$70 a flag.
70 a foot?
Flag.
for
Oh.
about 5 foot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little slab like?
Yeah, and they got a deal because they had one company to come in and do one section of the city every single year, whatever. So
That's a good price.
it was a good price.
Yeah, it sounds very good.
People were asking, can we do more? Like they would
Yeah.
put the pink X on the sidewalk
was
that
it.
need to be replaced. And people would call in and say, I'd rather, for that price, I'd rather do more.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's probably.
Was that a 4-foot sidewalk or 3?
That,
Most of them are putting out 4 footers.
4.
Or,
Sidewalk
Five?
replacement.
4 inch thick, 5 foot.
5 foot wide?
Yeah.
Okay, 5 foot wide, okay.
no,
You paid for
and
it.
my mother-in-law's, she's in
So
Warren,
it's 14
before.
$14 a money a foot.
That's not
Of course,
bad.
it's good.
I think.
It was called Zaniga, or you familiar with Zaniga?
They're probably 4 foot in the
Did you say
older.
70?
So their house was built like 65.
Right, and then the newer was
Five
developed,
times
probably
five,
5 foot.
25, yes, 70, it's under $5 a square foot, that's about it. But now, so look at
The other side was living with. I like it, that's why I bought the house, country at.
We're the last block, we're past motorway, so we don't have sidewalks either.
So then.
The idea is my blacktop ripped off, I'd like the country, dirt road, no.
Once you're there, once you're there.
I mean,
When was it done?
That's why I bought the house.
Okay, is there anything
When was it
else?
done?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Covered. Anybody have any questions for Rob?
Okay.
I talked, the other day about a part-time, code enforcement. Where do you think we are? I'm looking at you now. Can we afford another part-time
he-
code enforcement?
He doesn't decide that, the board decides the expenditure.
Well, I guess I'm asking, is there funds available?
You got
You got the first sheet,
You got the first sheet.
$9,000 in the good.
There's only 9 grand to
I
the
heard
good.
55 more for some transportation.
Yes.
So black becomes red
They
there.
have a volunteer, maybe.
Yeah, okay, guess that answered my question. It was my thought, I guess,
We can look at that through CDBG, but
That's
our,
right.
our program year is offset, it's not calendar year, it's
Right.
July 1st. So our 45th year right now has already been approved. 46th year, we can look at, okay, we're playing with the numbers there
that's what we were talking about,
to
planning
help,
commission.
to help support, maybe another part-time position in code enforcement. We're a little early for that. If there's no money available.
Like you said, if we can get money available to pick up the second half of 2020.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I just thought I see the improvements
But
that
sometimes too.
our code enforcement guys, maybe a lot of people haven't seen them, but I've seen a lot, a big difference.
So it's hard.
Especially in my side of the town, the southeastern part of the township, I've seen a big difference, code enforcement,
Which made a big difference.
basically doing a lot of good over there.
The MPC has fell off, we don't have as many people, again, eyes in the community reporting to code enforcement, we don't have as many volunteers as we once had, but again, the same code enforcement, they're, but except that it's still at the point where it's reactive rather than proactive. That's where
It's so
your
tiny that,
CDBG is proactive and your code enforcement are reactive.
so I don't know if it's like, this is the
I think
original.
they've been doing a pretty good job, I'd just like to see it continue
Article?
what they're doing on.
I'd like to trend that way too.
Yeah, I
Yeah, so
really,
that, so you are on the right spot.
Works good, it does.
Anything?
Okay, we're a minute, we're at the end of the workday.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, guys.
good to see you,
Rob, take her easy, thanks.
Oh, I got 2, Rob, I got 2 Parsons fire insurance.
Oh, recently?
Yes, it was yesterday.
All right, so
12,000.
Dispositions and stuff.
They sent me 12,000, yeah.
Okay, do we need to circle back here?